Hello, everybody. Today is Tuesday, November 17th, and today we're doing government and social.
Now we have a little bit of a tradition here at the Level 1 News. The first story on Tuesday, if at all possible, is about a certain man. I feel that our tradition will be falling to the wayside in 2021. We'll probably get a couple more. I wouldn't worry too much about it because we still have to go through the death throes, and then we have to find out where the revolving door will lead. The magical revolving door. But for now, this doesn't surprise anybody, but hey, maybe it'll make us feel good, right?
Bye-bye Ajit Pai. FCC boss will soon lose his top spot. So Ajit Pai that we're always talking about, who just this past week, it was in last week's episode of the news. It might be the most ridiculous and transparent thing that he's ever done in terms of, like, you can't assign this to incompetence anymore. It's malice. It's definitely malice. Ever? Well, he did the thing where he did the mental gymnastics where he said that Twitter is a common carrier, where Charter Cable is not.
Makes perfect sense. So yeah, we'll see where he lands. I'm sure it will be a very high floor corner office with a
pour some greasy pieces out.
Little mini bar, probably massage service. That's what you get.
It makes me sad that he's going to be more successful in his career than any of us and most of our watchers will ever be.
Well, listen, lying, cheating, and stealing works. So, in this world where there's this big focus on China, that's probably going away too. But for now, there's the big focus on China. And the idea of like, oh, we can't trust China's stuff. Their hardware, their apps, nothing.
They're constantly meddling with things to spy on us.
Because the Chinese government, even if the company doesn't know it, the Chinese government might be in there just sneaking stuff in. You don't know, because they're so powerful. And this story is an older story. But it certainly points out the problems.
It's a story as timeless as Boy Meets Girl.
It really is.
Swiss report reveals new details on CIA spying operation. So you got to read this. It turns out that the U.S., the CIA, was operating a clandestine... Oh no, what's happening? Was operating a clandestine cryptography company in Switzerland, and it's like, hey, we're Swiss, we're neutral, we're going to sell everybody cryptography products. They had two products, the one that was actually secure and the one that wasn't, and the one that wasn't is the one that they sold most people. We've actually covered this before a couple of years ago because some stuff happened and we reported on it, and it's like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if it turned out that was a CIA front? Guess what? It was.
Now, the big problem here is the Swiss government claims, we don't know for sure, maybe some people in the Swiss government know and they're dead now or whatever, but they claim they weren't actually involved in this. They didn't know. The Swiss company knew, but the Swiss government was out there banging that neutral drum. That's them, right? They're the neutral drum. Yeah.
Yes.
And
so you're thinking of Sweden. You get them mixed up.
Yeah, I always get those mixed up, but I'm pretty sure Switzerland is the neutral.
Switzerland is the
Yep.
So, they were out there, banging that neutral drum, but they weren't really technically neutral.
No.
I mean, if you were thinking you were going to go there because that's a safe bet for your technology, you were so dead wrong.
And see, it's so frustrating because whatever insanity that China is actually doing, here is an example of the U.S. doing exactly the same kind of thing. And so your argument is invalid because of that. I definitely think there are human rights atrocities that are happening on both sides, but maybe a little bit more on one side than the other.
And we maybe like in Guantanamo or something, Abu Ghraib, we might take a kidney or two just when we really need them, but not like the Chinese situation.
Yeah. So, but again, those kinds of things, you're like, it's kind of undermined by these kinds of operations because it doesn't work on a long enough time scale. It's dumb to engage in this kind of thing.
Oh, but they felt really good about it. The quote's in there.
Yeah.
You definitely check out the article. And now again, I hate to go into the I told you so's, and I don't think I said this on the news, but I've been saying for a long time, Trump should stop fighting the whole election thing because it looks sad at this point. Whether he's right or he's wrong, the media is never going to let him get away with it. What he needs to do is exactly what he's talking about here, because he will enjoy this more and he will be the king of it. No one can do this better.
Scoop. Trump eyes digital media empire to take on Fox News. Imagine a more powerful Alex Jones.
With a built-in audience.
The final form of Alex Jones, if you will.
I mean, he's got probably between 50 and 100 million who are there day one and never leave.
Yeah.
I mean, that's huge. And so they talk about he is now soured on Fox News because they called, was it Arizona?
Yeah, they prematurely called Arizona.
Not a fan of that. So he's decided to do his own thing, and he should. I mean, he could get up there, he could just talk all of his crap, not have to worry about anything. The social media will still make him a star by attacking him. If he does that, it's a brilliant move. But he needs to stop all the nonsense with the recount. And again, I'm not saying it's wrong or it's right, or I'm sure there was something wrong with this election, but I don't think it matters at this point. They've won. When you've been cheated and you've lost, you still have to lose with some, diplomacy.
You see, you've been baited, Ryan, and now all the comments are going to be.
I think Ryan's actually baiting comments, but I could be wrong.
I like a nice little row in the comment section. Gets the people's dander up.
I can't wait for the nonsense.
That's what we need more.
That Twitter story from the nonsense. Oh man.
Some Trump appointees, other than the cheap pie, are also probably at risk of losing their jobs, especially if maybe they didn't have the qualifications to run the programs they were put in front of in the first place. And one in particular, I think, is just getting ahead of the truck and being like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to step out gracefully.
NASA administrator says he plans to leave the position under the Biden administration. Says that NASA administrator should be close with the president, and he's never going to be. So he's out.
He was a senator, which is a rare career path. Senator to rocket scientist.
Well, obviously, it's not rocket surgery.
It's more of an administrator.
Yeah, but
top all the scientists.
the administrator
right?
needs to understand the product.
It's true. It's very, very true if you work in the tech world.
What I understand is the government is depriving private business of income. That's not okay in America. That's all I need to understand.
Listen, we cram the trash can with explosives, and we light it at the bottom. What is there to know? It's easy.
Has to have the right amount of banana peels.
If you're in the Great White North, like us, there are some pretty rural parts of that. It's actually much worse than us because at some point, everything's just frozen and dead. And you probably suffer a lot of the same problems, but there's some good news. Relief is finally here. Well, no, actually, it's not here. Actually, there's a giant catch at the end of this number.
Trudeau promises to connect 98% of Canadians to high-speed internet by 2026. The giant catch, if you live away from people, that doesn't include you.
You're the 2%. But the other giant catch, 2026. Krista, you have to wait 6 more years to get your house. How do you feel about that?
Well, I'm not Canadian, but that still would suck.
No, but I'm saying if you were Canadian, you might be looking at that situation.
We do have a Starlink article, which is very encouraging for Krista, I think.
No, I think that's the same article from last week.
It was with new pictures.
Oh, I was going to cut it. So some more election news that is, these little ballot initiatives that weren't actually races, but it's like, do we want to make these changes, folks, on a citywide level or a statewide level? And these are encouraging.
Voters overwhelmingly back broadband in Chicago and Denver. Voters in both cities made it clear they're fed up with monopolies like Comcast. And there have been some comments in our audience that I don't know if we covered this kind of thing in the past, but overwhelmingly, universally, people are incredibly satisfied with their ISP when the main goal of the ISP is to provide internet service.
Yeah. It's like, so there's a bunch of restaurants in your city. Well, there's 2. And they build a third restaurant. And in that third restaurant, the waitstaff doesn't put cigarettes out on you. That's what it's like. How could they not love it?
It is crazy when you have a government mandated monopoly and you need a communication service. Like Krista is not buying a house unless it has good internet. A large part of the reason that I'm moving is because the internet service at my house has gotten worse and the ISP doesn't seem to care. I kind of need internet to do my stuff.
To do my job, which stimulates the economy, since that's all people care about. Like,
So I don't know if Illinois was the same, but Colorado has this law that I think Charter actually wrote the law, and I was like, no, you're not allowed to do this thing on your own unless your city specifically votes out of this terrible law that we're creating. So that's what they were doing there. So congratulations, nice. Denver. The FTC is also doing some year-end house cleaning. And we all knew this was coming, but we finally have official numbers and everything's wrapped up.
The FTC announces a settlement with Zoom over security issues. This is from protocol.com. So we've covered this a bunch of times before. There's not really a lot of new information here other than it's finalized. Basically, Zoom said, hey, we got end-to-end encryption. It turned out they were sending it through China in a not exactly well encrypted way. But hey, you know, their service exploded when everybody had to stay home, blah, blah, blah. That's all really important, and that's a good thing to do. But I would encourage you instead to step back and look at the bigger picture of the FTC handling something to do with technology here because of Ajit Pai's FCC. If this is a preview of what we can expect for like handling a fairly serious issue for consumers and encryption and stuff like that, of like how the FTC is equipped to handle this, this is really bad. Like a company that knows what they're doing and is intentionally malicious, like some of the stuff we've seen Facebook do, is going to run roughshod over the FTC effortlessly. And that's what you should take away from this article.
But Facebook says such nice things about Biden. We can't hurt them.
There are certain things that only the FCC is equipped to deal with. It's like you're literally asking the communication, like the FCC was set up to deal with radio transmissions. And they're like, we don't have any control over radio transmissions. That sounds like somebody else.
They also have to be monitored for a while. They're on the naughty list for a little while longer, but I doubt anybody's going to go too overboard on it.
The FTC is going to be doing that auditing, which they don't have the staff or like they don't know. They're going to get asked for a report, and the report's going to be like, "Yep, all good.
We're the best." Now I've been getting a flurry of robocalls in the last 2 days.
All of us have. At least I have.
2 days?
Yeah,
I feel like it's been like the last couple weeks, but it's mostly been like political campaigns. Like,
but
hey,
these are the silent ones. They don't say anything to me. Oh, have you guys gotten the voice acting ones?
Yeah, where it's like, hey, blah blah blah.
Or it's like, I'm a ladder. I injure people. I haven't sat all the way through it, but I think it's like trying to drum up lawsuit stuff.
Wow.
Anyway, so answering phones is kind of out the window at this point for most people. I think the younger you are, the less likely you are to ever pick up that ringing phone. So what do you do if somebody owes you money? Well, good news, except bad news for most of the population.
Debt collectors will soon be allowed to reach you by text or on Facebook. The bad thing about Facebook, though, is that I'm pretty sure like it creates those shadow profiles. So there's going to be cases where debt collectors are like, we notified you on Facebook and it wasn't a real person.
I don't think they can do official communications through this. This is just harassment. You can opt out of it, and I'm sure they're all going to be extra careful to add that link and honor those. But there is no limit to how many times they can do it, so they can just pepper you all day long.
Hey.
Uber was a big winner, Uber and Lyft in California, with their Prop 22 win. And a lot of people, very controversial, but in their eyes, it was a huge win as God intended it, and they're not done.
Uber says it wants to bring Prop 22 laws to other states. It turns out, like, for what Uber offers, there are a lot of people that want that. And the bad news is that it makes it really easy for Uber to exploit people, but people want it.
Literally anyone who works for them.
So
you can't. I think the thing about these jobs is that Americans in particular are kind of we've fallen into this world of you're a cog in a machine.
Yeah. But
the machine has to promise not to destroy you. And this is a whole new paradigm. Because you're kind of a cog in the machine, but you don't have to be if you don't want to be. And the machine really makes no promises about your destruction.
Yeah.
You kind of just have to juggle it all yourself. And I think some people really struggle with that.
Yeah.
And the machine is out to kill you. That's the other thing to keep in mind in both cases.
Yeah.
Keep your head on a swivel.
Yeah. Well, the machine is out to kill you in both cases, but one of the cases preemptively takes money from you so that, you'll have it theoretically, maybe, at some point in the future. And the other way, it doesn't. And so at some point, you end up needing the money, or the money isn't there regardless.
It's like, oh, we don't have health insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you have to deal with that. That's your thing that you got to do.
Well, I think that's going to go about as well as payroll tax went, historically.
I love the name Pegatron. Because, of course, it reminds me of Megatron, the Transformer.
The long like
A
this
worse
is
version of that.
Yeah, this is the legacy of the Transformers.
Rue loves it, too.
Yeah, Ruth's just over here at the window whining because she sees the neighbor's dog outside.
So, fantastic name for a company. Got to give them 10 points on that. But when you rate them on their student worker policies, maybe a considerably lower score.
Apple's supplier, Pegatron, found using illegal student labor in China. The company admits the interns worked overtime and night shifts in violation of regulations. It's not regulations, it's law. Chinese law says that students aren't allowed to work like this. And, Pegatron was like, we really need to make these Apple products. So Apple is sanctioning them by not giving them new business, but is continuing to work with them. So this is just farcical.
I took that to be our contract with them is already good up until the end of 2021. And in the meantime, they can jump through whatever hoops they need to get back on the non-naughty list. And then we'll renew our contract after that.
Yeah.
So
Are the students even paid for their work?
They're called
Their normal work, normal
interns.
hours?
I think they do pay them something, but it's probably much cheaper than a regular worker.
Yeah.
Well, that's better than the U.S. where most interns are unpaid.
They also have laws that you're not allowed to work a job that's not related to your study interest. So you have to declare that up front. And these guys are all tech students, but they're just building iPhones. After you've built your 50th iPhone, do you think you're learning anything at that point?
No.
That's like saying the person who works at the Hot Pocket factory is now a master chef. No, that's not how any of this works.
Yes, I have 30 years experience in cooking. Not only did I only make Hot Pockets, I only made the pizza flavor.
I was really motivated because they threatened to take my kidneys if I didn't do a good job.
1 week out of that 30 years, I made the beef and cheese. Otherwise, it was all pizza.
I feel qualified now to cook steaks at your restaurant.
Well, we talked last week about the Ant IPO, and there was some question about what happened. We actually got a couple of or at least one comment, and they were like, "No, it wasn't the Communist Party. It was because the regulatory services didn't like them." Well, sir, you're wrong.
The Wall Street Journal says that China's President Xi Jinping personally scuttled Jack Ma's Ant IPO. It's like, you're too powerful, Jack Ma. You will not supersede me. I am the most powerful man in China. That seems to be how the Wall Street Journal is saying that this played out. Because that, Jack Ma's thing, the Ant IPO, it already is a company that handles a significant amount of financial day-to-day transactions for a lot of Chinese citizens. And this would have made it all that much more powerful.
We're playing in this new, China's using capitalism playground. But at the core, these guys are red. Don't forget that. They do not like rich men.
The picture in the header here has that same sort of flavor that picture of Daenerys does. Or Thor, where they're kind of like, is it though? It's that same vibe.
Yeah, it's that's a strained handshake.
Yeah.
And that's not because of the vid. So we'll see what happens with that. I mean, the company's still making money. And he's still the richest man in China. So joke's on the other guy.
He will be the richest man in China at Xi Jinping's behest. And he must never forget that. That was the whole point of that.
They set him down and they were like, look, you might be the richest man in China. Okay, fine. Yeah. But you're getting up there in years. How long before you need a kidney?
Oh, dark.
Stay on our good side, sir. This is, I feel like these are just, these headlines just come at us week after week. It's like the battery headlines at this point. It's like, oh, it's another country. It's another group. It's always the same thing. And it's always the same problem. It's Amazon. They use the third-party data. We know they do it. We know damn well.
EU, the Associated Press is reporting that the EU has filed antitrust charges against Amazon over their use of customer data. No, this is not a repeat from last week or the week before or the one before that. It's literally a new thing, but not really. I mean, this lawsuit is really just about how Amazon normally uses customer data to like give you preferences. Like, hey, you ordered a bunch of toilet paper. Customers who bought toilet paper also bought this. That's not okay in the European Union.
And the third-party sellers.
Yeah.
So Amazon is competing with third-party sellers. That Amazon basic stuff is that's just drop ship from China. They just put their brand on it, and they're like, hey, people like this. Go make us that. Make it exactly like this other guy that's successful, and then we'll promote it. So
there's some of this stuff that I get is maybe a cultural difference because some of the transaction with Amazon is like, hey, I noticed that you're getting ready to buy some furniture. I can get the same furniture from China for way less. Do you want me to do that? And like, in a purely capitalistic thing, it's like, oh yeah, you should. That's completely okay. But in Europe, it seems like no, we don't want to allow that.
So the other name that's constantly embroiled in these exact same stories is Google. Because Google's kind of doing the same thing. Now, if you'll think back, how many weeks ago was that when we saw that leaked document?
1.
Was it that soon?
2, maybe?
It's been a little longer than a week. Anyway,
it's been in the news for like a while.
Somebody leaked that there was an internal Google document that was kind of instruction manual for getting around the EU's regulatory situation.
Yeah.
And guess who saw that and didn't care for it?
Google CEO apologizes for document. EU's Breton warns that the internet is not a Wild West. This is Reuters. You should definitely read this Reuters article, if for no other reason than they surprised him with it and caught him off guard. So Sundar Pichai, is that how you'd say his name?
We never know.
It.
They sort of were like, hey, this document is for, and he's like, I've never seen this. I didn't sign off on this. I don't know what's going on. But the regulators were like, they basically they said they had a very frank and open conversation where it's like, look, you're trying to pit one regulatory arm against another regulatory arm. That might have worked 100 years ago, but that's not going to work anymore. We're smarter than that now. So let's figure this out. But the results of that, whatever that, the contents of that conversation, we do not know.
Poor guy, but he was so embarrassed. God, I hope he gets over it. Facial recognition. Now, we saw a couple of wins in the facial recognition category during the election. More and more cities saying no to it. But then we also found out that Amazon is expanding more into the law enforcement phase, which is terrifying because you know that facial recognition is being cooked into that whole cake. In Russia, it seems, facial recognition is, the Wild West, again, is a good analogy, like they accused Mr. Pichai of. I think this is very Wild West-ish.
There's no rules. Face for sale. Leaks and lawsuits blight Russia facial recognition. So Russia's got all the advanced Chinese technology and all the software. They don't know how to secure it, and it is everywhere.
So the story given here, Krista, think about this. Think about the terror here. So this company that was sort of auditing this, they got one of their junior female people, like an intern or something, a young girl. And I think they chose a young girl because it is, the most terrifying, the young girl. And she was like, hey, I have a target, which she used herself, for ethical reasons, I imagine. I have a target, and she paid some fee. Do you remember how much the fee was?
$100.
Was it $100? Is that 100 rubles or whatever?
It was 200, it says.
Or 200, yeah.
16,000
16,000.
It wasn't much.
And after paying her fee, took 2 days, which is, that's kind of a long time, but not really considering what they did. And she was sent a huge trove of data that targeted exactly where she was and the images of where she was throughout the city in the recent past.
It's terrible.
Nice. So that's what law enforcement already has here in America then.
Yeah, but at least it's law enforcement. I mean, they're somewhat more trustworthy. Maybe not. So yeah, this is just a private service. Anybody can use it, and all they have to do is get your picture. Some of the the weebs in our audience, like their heart rate is like 250 right now. Like, oh, really? The girl at Subway, I can just take a picture?
Oh yeah, that guy.
Forum members know.
And China is not the only country that's having a little bit of an uproar when it comes to payment systems, because India, much like China, has widely adopted digital payments. They love it. Super convenient. And of course, these Western companies, they want in.
India opens antitrust case against Google over its payments app. This is a follow-up from, like, we first reported on this like 3 weeks ago. So India was kind of in talks with Google. It's like, hey, do we need to open up an antitrust? And like whatever they said, India put the yes, we need to open an antitrust immediately. So whatever they said did not appease them, and if anything, accelerated things.
So this has to do with the Pay Store 30% and the fact that Google Pay is inherent to Android, that kind of thing.
They seem to want to use Google Pay the way that they use other payment stuff for like convenience store purchases, but without the fees.
Right.
I am completely distracted by the image behind. I've immediately forgotten how he pronounced the name. What? Why this font? Why nothing else branded Google?
Are you saying where it says Google for India?
Yeah, I don't know why. I'm just like, it's so bland, and they don't use any of Google's like branding stuff. Like, why none of the colors? Why?
I guess the
font?
background of the letters are like Indian things, right? Like famous Indian.
Yeah, but
things.
like you could have done like the Google colors and then put like the woodblock printing that you see on like saris and stuff, and did that, and then it would have felt like Google and India.
Krista, maybe the Indian country, they've got a different aesthetic than you're used to.
Maybe, but like also, why did they put a stroke around the letter form? Like that's not something that you see in any other Google brand. It's not really related to anything we're talking about, but I hyper fixated on it, and now I want to know who chose that graphic.
You know what? You've convinced me. I'm done with Google Pay.
Yeah, I'm not using any Google products anymore. Except that's like almost impossible, which is maybe what that was about.
Sadly. So Twitch, we've been talking about Twitch for the last couple of weeks. There's been a bit of a copyright holocaust going on Twitch.
Yeah.
People are going back deep into the past and finding any violation that you have for copyright music on Twitch and attacking you for it, making you sign ridiculous documents. And Twitch has finally spoken out and tried to give some relief. I don't think this sounds very impressive.
Twitch says it's in talks to license music and tells users to delete videos with unauthorized tracks. Amazon-owned service says it's surprised by the sudden avalanche of copyright takedowns starting in May. So Twitch has handled this badly. There's no question about that. But
what could they have done?
Exactly. Yeah. What could they have done? But here's the really amazing thing. Like whatever Spotify pays to stream a track, I guarantee you that is a very, very tiny, insignificant amount of money. If you gave the creator the option for creators, it's like, hey, somebody's watching your VOD from 5 years ago. Would you like to pay 3/4 of a penny whenever somebody watches that because we identified this track in it? I think they would be like, oh, okay.
And you know what? Just send me a check because I'm going to blow your mind, Twitch. Here's what you do. You build a little system, streamer jukebox, right? You go in, you build yourself a playlist. Before you stream, you get it all nice and set up. It goes through Spotify if it wants to, whatever. Twitch's own thing. Amazon's got music.
Yeah.
Amazon Music. And you set that up, and it's on the side there. It's nice. It's transparent background. It's got a nice little overlay. And my Twitch viewers can click on that and pay the bits to play the song of my choice. What do you think, like 10 cents?
Yeah.
That's probably the Spotify price, right? It's probably way above it.
That's probably more than what Spotify pays.
You can pay and Twitch viewers all day long. You're going to be like, hey, Twitch viewers, let's queue up $1 in the jukebox and get this hour going. No problem.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah.
There's already kind of something like that. I guess it's not really quite the same, but like there are already streaming music services that it's like already stuff that's pre-approved to play on stream.
But
so you can just make a playlist of that, and then you can play that in the background.
But this could be the full library because we're going to pay for it.
I'm thinking the same thing. I want to go full monkey's paw on this with the recording industry. See, with patents and stuff that is in that's technical, there's something called FRAND or FRAND. Like, fair licensing fees for patents, because you own the patent on something, you have to do stuff a certain way or you get in trouble. See also like the Qualcomm 5G modems. They're not allowed to make money from now until the end of time on their stuff, you have to sort of license it in a fair way. You can't charge one person more. There's all kinds of rules that you have to follow. The recording industry, this is a shakedown. They're basically holding Twitch for ransom, a hostage, because it's like, oh, you've done a very minor violation of copyright that actually is only worth, fractions of a penny, and we know that because that's what they pay Spotify. So why don't we get an FRAND type situation set up with music so that the recording industry has no control over that? It's set by statute. It's set the same way that technology patents are. It seems crazy to me that the music industry would have more leverage to charge arbitrary fees for their intellectual property than the intellectual property in a 5G modem.
I think that that's going to fail is your 5G modems are basically all the same. But you can make a very good argument that, somebody recording out of their garage, which is a totally viable thing right now, is not going to sell for the same price as Metallica.
I think you could probably, you're right for anything recent, but I think that the older the music is, the more likely it can be licensed under something like that. And not one piece of music doesn't have to be licensed the same way. Whenever they set the Metallica rate, everybody pays the Metallica rate.
But that's not flexible enough. So the analog here is when you put music in movies, you're going to pay a lot of money for Metallica in a movie.
In the context of a movie?
Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Well, I think that's just based on views, though.
No, you have to pay that just to put it in the movie.
That's crazy.
And that doesn't include royalties.
Oh, wow. That seems like a mess.
I think if you pay up front, sometimes you can just buy the royalties.
That's sounding more and more like what Qualcomm got in trouble for trying to do with their modems. And that's what Apple accused them of doing, is basically, it's like Apple's like, you're charging us a bunch of money for your modem, and then you want a cut of every iPhone sold?
But I'm saying Apple could use somebody else's modem, and it might not be as good, but it's the same modem. It's harder to make that argument when it comes to music.
The Intel modem was definitely not as good.
Because if I'm a Metallica fan and you give me just a random rap album that's modern, that's not fungible.
But you give me that Intel modem that has only 3 bars of service where my Qualcomm has 5.
It's still going to do something.
I guess I don't see music the same way, but okay.
might be the problem.
You definitely don't.
TikTok. Now, there is an update. I saw just before I came here today to this. But the thing about TikTok is, TikTok was all of the news.
In the run up to the election.
It's all we wanted to talk. It's all Trump wanted to talk about. And then things got real hairy for Trump. And it was like, what? Who? Talk?
What?
Did we order Chinese food? And so TikTok was like, hey, guys, remember us? You were trying to destroy us, but now you won't take our calls? What?
TikTok says the administration has forgotten about it and trying to ban it and would like to know what's up. I guess the Trade Commission did actually respond, and they said, okay, we're going to give you a stay of execution. So it's not expiring this week. The deadline,
30 days.
Yeah. So I think it's going to get another extension past January 2021.
If you can get to January 21st, I think you'll be all right. The whole idea of social media misinformation in the wake of the election and what we all experienced is now more at the forefront than ever. And the fact that the power structure is going to change, and like the government's friendliness and unfriendliness when it comes to big tech companies, I think is going to be a little bit different. And good Lord, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but every major tech news publication has just ripped away the veneer. It's Orange Man bad 24/7. Like, they're not playing around anymore. They're not tiptoeing around this.
Steve Bannon caught running a network of misinformation pages on Facebook. Yes, that's Steve Bannon. And this article goes into, like, it gets really vitriolic. Yeah.
So if you are a fan of any of these, there's some bad news for you.
Yeah, that was all.
We Build the Wall Incorporated.
Yeah, it's just sad. It's just sad. And we'll have some really funny stuff and nonsense this week too, maybe, probably. But then Zuckerberg, somebody was like, "Hey, Zuckerberg, doesn't this deserve a Bannonation?" And he's like, "Well, they didn't violate enough rules, but we're going to be watching them." And it's just like, really?
You forced a rearrangement.
Really?
Yeah.
Forced a rearrangement, chat. One tab rearrangement.
Sorry. No, I think it flows really well. Reuters reports Zuckerberg defends not suspending ex-Trump aide Bannon from Facebook on this recording. So basically, I think Facebook is trying to create the appearance of like, this is the least insane thing on that side of the argument, so I guess we shouldn't ban it because it'll make people more insane.
I think the past article clears up why he chose that. These were massively popular.
Yeah.
Huge numbers. And growing rapidly, too. So it's like, hey, oh, there's a fly. We don't have, Facebook users are kind of dwindling. Sure would love to have those right-wingers. But the backlash every time, and whether it's either side of the aisle, both complain about it, but there's always a group that's like, see, this is why Facebook must be destroyed. Now the 230 rhetoric I think is done, right?
I don't know. I don't know if that's the last we'll see of it.
I mean, there's always going to be those certain senators who are talking about it, but I don't think Biden's going to play that game. I guess he doesn't have to. Could just be the lawmakers.
He doesn't have to, but I think that it's going to be. I think lawmakers are going to create a scandal such that it's going to be in Zuckerberg or Jack Dorsey's interest to come out and say, "Hey, this was actually like somebody behaving badly, working with a Steve Bannon type, in order to expose it." And they'll be the only ones in the position to actually expose it. And it'll be a quote unquote tough call, but I think that they'll do it. And when they do that, I think that's when Section 230 comes back.
Well, in any case, they are trying desperately to keep some kind of lid on all that stuff, and their latest step probably isn't going to be very successful.
Mashable reports that Facebook groups that spread misinformation will now face probation and forced moderation.
So yeah, gotta watch out for your group. If you go into this whole situation, then every post in your group must be explicitly authorized by one of the moderators. And then if they feel that was wrong, then that moderator can face problems for having made that decision.
The moderators are just like, I was suicidal before. They don't get paid for this, I'm sure.
The moderators are like, oh, I'm going to get so many more hours at the Russian bot farm this week. This is great. And so with Trump's fall from grace, presumably, the loser elect, he has turned on Fox News. He's decided he no longer wants to have anything to do with Fox News because they call it Arizona. And of course, he has, like I said, the tech companies, they've thrown off any sort of disguise. It is now full anti-Trump all the time. And Twitter, every day since the election, has censored at least one of his tweets. They're like, we're not having it anymore.
Do you think there's any introspection, anything that's like, maybe I shouldn't have crapped on Biden, or not Biden, I shouldn't have crapped on John McCain so hard because he was from Arizona. It's like, that doesn't have anything to do with why I lost Arizona.
Or just any sort of introspection about anything at all. Like, maybe I could have improved my campaign. If I want to run for 2024, how do I improve?
I mean, he did
on these failures.
The states that he expected to win, but ultimately lose. He did kind of crap on them pretty hard.
I don't think you understand Donald Trump at all.
Yeah,
by asking those questions.
Yeah,
that's not a part of his world. So anyway, he has spoken out against both Twitter and Fox News, and he's hinted of what we talked about earlier, starting his own thing. But there is already an alternative to Twitter for the right wingers, and it's exploding.
Right-leaning social network Parler tops the free app charts. They should have called it Parley or something like that instead of Parler, unless they pronounce it Parley.
Well, I think it's a combination of Parlor and parlay, right?
Oh, well, that's clever.
I mean, if they were really wanting to go full, app, they should have just removed the E. Parler.
I like that they got some people that were so insane that they also immediately had to start banning them. So we don't ban people. They were like,
the other one that tried that had that same issue. Because it's like, oh, we can do anything? let's test that. And you immediately.
How long till 4chan gets on here and really tests the limit?
Hey, everybody, there's a clan meetup at the big oak tree at the corner of South and First. I'll see you there. Oh, no, banned.
Although technically that should be allowed, even if we don't like it. Palaver is what I would have called it. That's a better word. So that's one side of the argument. You know, the right-wing trolls. What about the left-wing trolls? Well, we've got those too, but weirdly enough, the tone of this article, totally different.
The data expert behind helped Trump win. Now he's built a machine to take him down. And so this is a story.
Old. This is the second. We should say this is old. This was pre-election.
Oh, okay.
So that's why it's worded like that.
But yeah, this is exactly the same story about exactly the same kind of thing, just from the other side.
But they're way better at it.
Yeah. Well, are they though?
Yeah, because they point out how they basically figured out how, like, the most ripe for manipulation people targeted them, and they found out what to feed them to most manipulate them.
I thought, yeah, I guess that's true. I thought they were more effective because they had a much longer time scale. See, they did this analysis. They did the Cambridge Analytica thing, and then they ran ads for like a year, just targeting the same people over and over again. But the contents of the ads changes, and it subtly manipulated people. And it was very effective if you read the article. One of the people used to work for Facebook and then went into the private industry. So it's kind of eye-opening in terms of like the mechanism for how this works. But which way that you're trying to steer people doesn't really matter. The machinery for this has already been built.
But they were explicitly anti-Trump.
Well, not at first. That's what the whole story is about, a change of heart. He was pro-Trump, and then he was like, "What have I done?" Because it was pro-Trump, anti-Hillary, and then he was like, "No," and then so now he's anti-Trump.
So, he's changed the use of the tool that he developed.
I would say that he's anti-Trump, not pro-Biden.
So we have somebody who doesn't even know what their stance is, changes it rapidly, but is in charge of twisting the minds of the blue collars.
In charge of the vast machinery that is going to twist the minds of yes.
The point is, the only thing you should take away from these two articles is that we need a compound away from the internet. That's all we need.
The Starlink, Krista, we can't escape it.
The only fix is to educate the populace, and we are not in a position to do that quickly.
That would be a great sitcom where we're like hiding from the authorities in the compound, and we can't, we're covered with a tree cannon, but we can't let anybody know that we're in there. It's total radio silence. And then every week, Wendell, like the professor from Gilligan's Island, is trying to build his own internet, and we have to keep stopping him.
Or some sort of, freak accident happens that destroys his work every week.
Chris, I'm thinking that's going to turn into an illustration and like a new mouse pad or something at the store.level1text.
Okay.
At the end of every season, or maybe even every week, an important character is killed because of what he's doing, but he still won't stop. But we laugh about it. It's like Hogan's Heroes. Like we take something really dark and we just make it a joke. We'll get started on that.
I know nothing.
Write the pilot.
And speaking of Twitter, some people will certainly celebrate January 21st as a day when one very important policy changes on Twitter. Well, it doesn't really change the policy, but it triggers a change in the world.
Trump will lose his Twitter public interest protections in January. So that means he's going to be banned like a day or two later.
Now, The Verge. Let's read this sub-headline. Fair and balanced, folks.
Twitter's long national nightmare is almost over. It's a little
national nightmare. And finally, wow, this is a terrible story to put last. I didn't really think this through.
That's fine.
It's the most boring story.
The most boring
well,
one.
it's also the shortest, too, because...
But see who wrote it.
It's our man.
Oh, man.
The legend. So basically, if you've traded Bitcoin, it takes a few minutes. Can be annoying to wait for things, and you're like, when you're using it as payment on a website and you got to leave the page open and it's like, oh, as soon as we get this, as soon as we get those 6 confirmations, we'll actually push the order through. And then sometimes it doesn't work. Facebook says we're better than that, 7 times better.
Facebook claims its proposed payments network is 7 times faster than Visa's, but I'm going to say that's because no one's using it.
Yeah, that tends to blow up over time.
Yep.
As that stuff gets bigger. Now, this is a sort of like a side additional thing that they claim can be put on any blockchain. So it could help improve all of them. This is Libra. Remember Libra was going to revolutionize payments, and then the government was like,
no, it's not.
We'll be doing that.
We can't call it Libra. We have to say that this is going to tie into conventional payment systems.
They have another name for it. Novi. Navi? N-O-V-I?
Novi Robotics.
All right, Krista. I don't have a themed goodbye this week. Just, it's a user's choice.
I'll just do a standard goodbye.
What is that dog still back there?
Yeah, she's kind of like tucked herself into the bed. I don't know if you guys can see her very well.
I can't see anything. Oh, she's under the blanket.
Yeah, she's kind of tucked herself in.
Doesn't that get fur in the blankets?
Yeah, this is the guest bedroom though, so it's not a problem until we have a guest, and because of the pandemic, we've not had guests. So
there's no surface of my home that does not have cat fur.
We try to keep it vacuumed, but yeah, it is like a constant fight. Anyway.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Bye. Hey everybody, today's November 18th and we're doing business and security. Bye.
Not bye. We're just getting started.
Just getting started.
We've got a few new products in this Level 1 store, like masks. Nice masks. They go around the back of your head. They don't grab onto your ears. It's nice.
And it's nice because if you if you're a little lonely during the lockdown, you want a little bit of human contact. When you're out with your Level 1 mask, then people will walk up to you and be like, what is that? I've never heard of that.
I also love Level 1 techs. Wow, what a coincidence.
No,
and then, you get married and have kids, and they're all also subscribers to the Level 1 news.
Except there's only the one gender in our audience. That's not true, but it's mostly true. Apple. People were really excited about this, and they said a lot of things that might not have been true, but Apple really, really proud of their new MacBook. Why are they so proud of this one? Oh, it's because it is now their own chip, and they are hyping it up.
Apple unveils new M1 Apple Silicon-powered MacBook Air, Mac Mini, and MacBook Pro. Here's everything Apple announced today at the One More Thing event. Yeah, Apple is moving to ARM. They're moving away from x86 because they can beat the performance, they can beat the power, they can do a lot of things. I'm sure it's going to be a good experience, but there's going to be a lot of things that are going to be a bad experience with the new ARM chip.
Not according to them.
Yeah, one is going to be Thunderbolt compatibility. They in their presentation said it was 98% faster than PC laptops sold, and it's like, sold by whom? Walmart? I mean, I would believe that if it's, this laptop is faster than 98% of laptops that Walmart sold. I believe that.
PC World has a retort.
No, the new MacBook Air is not faster than 98% of PC laptops. Let me explain why. Apple also said this was an 8-core laptop, which is, again, a lie. There's 4 little cores that are power efficient and 4 big cores that are fast. Listen, AMD got sued because their 8-core CPU only had 4 floating point units. It had 8 integer units, but it only had 4 floating point units. And they got sued over that, and they lost. It's the same thing.
Some other limitations, one of which, it's like, all right, well, probably not a lot of people using those in the first place. But the other one, kind of a biggie.
Yeah, Apple's new M1 Max won't work with external GPUs. The new Apple Silicon-powered MacBook can't use an eGPU and maxes out at 16 gigabytes of RAM. So Thunderbolt, they say it supports Thunderbolt, but there's an asterisk there. They don't really mention it, but Thunderbolt peripherals made before now probably aren't going to work with it properly.
Ouch.
At least not for a while.
So, we'll see what happens with that. I couldn't be less interested in it.
I'm sort of excited that, they're able to do something with ARM, but that just tells you how far behind Intel has fallen because, it's crazy.
Now, working from home, do you remember when working from home was doing your part? It was like Rosie the Riveter. It's like, get out there and work from home and keep the curve down, flatten the curve. And now, apparently, working from home is privilege?
Well, it's not untrue, but this is a flawed thing to think about it, I think.
Deutsche Bank Research tax home workers to help those who cannot. This seems weird to me because, just hear me out here for a second. But moving jobs overseas was not taxed. Why would we tax? Like, we're moving jobs that don't have to be done here in the office to another country. We don't tax that. But we are going to tax if we move those same jobs from the office to somebody's home in the same country.
Really, though, like, if you're a big business and you're saving money on offices and parking and maintenance and all the crap that goes with having a giant office space for all your workers, shouldn't why would you tax the person who's now having to pay extra electric and possibly more rent because they can't rent out the bedroom that they've now turned into an office, et cetera, like.
Their argument is that when you are out in the world, when you are going to an office for a job, you're stopping at the deli and the newsstand, you're getting your coffee, you're having lunch, maybe you join a gym that's there and, nearby your workplace, and all this, like trickle down economic type stuff.
That's really worked out for us. Yeah.
Shouldn't the business pay that instead of the individual, though?
Well, actually, that is, the business will pay it.
Oh, well, that article made it sound like it was like payroll tax, where
the
business pays it, but not really.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to come out of the worker's salary, but the business is responsible for it.
Yeah, so really, it's this is bullshit. This is just straight bullshit.
Now, Deutsche Bank, I think it was JP Morgan that had the opposite article, and they said, we must immediately lock down again and go full remote. So the financial giants are kind of sparring over that.
I mean, I do think it is a privilege to be able to work from home, but like, wouldn't this de-incentivize it where it's like, well, I can't afford to pay an extra tax right now because maybe my spouse got laid off,
And it's 5%. If that's 5% off the top pre-tax, that's a lot.
And then you have a bunch of people who are like, well, I can't afford that, so I'm going to go into the office anyway. And then they get infected. And then we're not actually flattening the curve at that point. And it's like, it doesn't make any sense.
Something tells me that Deutsche Bank figured out a way to siphon off some of that 5%.
Yeah, that's what that sounds
That's
like.
why they want
exactly what that sounds like.
We talked last week about the Raspberry Pi. Was it the 400?
Yes.
Was the keyboard one?
Just released, yeah.
And so the keyboard was a cool new thing. That's kind of a convenience thing. But it turns out there's a lot of other changes under the hood. There's some new heat spreaders, and the bigger chamber and stuff makes it do something that you could never do before with a Raspberry Pi.
Oh, you could. You could definitely. It's just...
Boy, but you're going to add cooling to a Raspberry Pi? That's ridiculous.
Adventures in overclocking. Which Raspberry Pi 4 flavor is fastest? Hint, it's the new keyboard one. Because the keyboard one turns the keyboard basically into a heatsink. Not really. It's a big aluminum plate. But it'll run at like 2 gigahertz all day long.
2.5 they found.
Yeah. So
without any extra stuff. Just the keyboard.
That's crazy.
I mean, probably not on a hot summer day.
Yeah. They were they could only manage 2.1 stable, and it wasn't perfectly stable on the best of the remaining Raspberry Pi. So the Raspberry Pi 400, that's a decent little overclock.
There's a bunch of like technical images, like graphs and stuff in this article, and then at the bottom there's like an artistic photo of a keyboard and leaves. Why this photo?
Because you're out in nature.
Right.
With your monitor.
Now it's about to be the winter of our overclock. We're overclocking the computers to keep warm.
I'm sure some college nerd will take like a battery pack and a crappy monitor and like wire together their own Raspberry Pi tablet just for attention.
Wendell's quietly like, that might have been me.
This is another headline where it's one of these headlines. It's like, of course, we already knew. I mean, it's obvious, but it's good to warn people maybe sometimes. Maybe some of you didn't know this already.
Can you trust an Amazon review? 42% may be fake, Independent Monitor says. Yes, a large number of Amazon reviews are completely fake. A large number of Amazon products are completely fake themselves. I just got a box of monitor cables, like DisplayPort cables. I ordered 8 different brands of DisplayPort cables, like the kind of generic ones. The cables that came, they were all identical. Somebody's gaming the system.
You know what? One thing they do a lot of, I've noticed, is You know how you can have like different quantities and sizes, those little boxes you click, or colors or whatever? So they'll put a different item in each one of those things.
I hate that.
But
that makes me so angry.
The reason they do that is because all those reviews go to the same. Every product shares reviews. Yeah. So they can review flood one product, and then 10 products will benefit from that.
Oh, that's evil.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Amazon is more concerned about stuff that's just nonsense rather than actually protecting the consumer.
They're more concerned about the Apple counterfeits that are actually just other brands. Some more bad news, not just from Amazon, but from Google. Google is, at this point, they seem to be going door to door to all of their past projects that people really loved but aren't making a lot of money, and murdering them. Or, wounding them to such a degree that they are no longer useful.
Come June 1st, 2021, all of your new photos will count against your free Google storage. It used to be that you could have a certain amount of photo storage for free. That is gone. They want you to pay.
So now this counts toward your Gmail, your OneDrive, all of that. I think it's 15 gigabytes of storage.
Yeah.
And it all counts the same. So if you have a lot of photos, that number is going to bump up really quickly.
Google, we make reasonably okay Android phones with anemic storage so that you'll subscribe to storage in the cloud because we like to make money.
And that storage in the cloud is going to be called Google One. It's going to be more than just cloud service, but that's a part of it. And they really, really want you to sign up for that. They really want it. So much that, again, they're taking their most popular programs, tweaking them just a bit.
Google Photos will lock ColourPop behind a Google One paywall for photos without depth information. What photos have depth information? Not very many. You got to pay.
Yeah. Get your photo storage. Get your new features. Start 2021 with Google One. Please don't. We can, some F's in the chat. We'll pour one out. I'm not really going to do that because I don't want to make a mess. For a piece of technology that is no longer with us, it's going to hang around for a while longer. I guess probably the chances are people will die while using these because they're not popular anymore, but they were somewhat revolutionary in their day.
Dish to shut down Slingbox. Devices will become inoperable in 2022. If you haven't discovered the wonders of Plex, I encourage you to check out Plex, or if you're more of a DIYer, MB. But it's not called MB anymore. But you should check out those free and open source media players because this is always going to happen. Always.
Slingbox weathered a lot of legal storms because, of course, the evil copyright cartel was just sure that they were stealing because of what these things were doing, which was just broadcasting what you paid for to a different location. But they won. They weathered the storm.
They won, but Arrow lost? How is this? What the universe makes this fair?
Universe has never been fair. And Uber has some revolutionary new stuff. I think they're trying to just throw everything they can against the wall because they are suffering greatly. Still trying to change the election, even though they're not getting any business. That's interesting, huh? This one I think is interesting. I think, and I hate to go to the darkest place here, but that's kind of my job. I think there will be a sexual assault, and we won't do this anymore because humans are terrible.
Uber now lets users book rides 30 days in advance and pick a favorite driver.
Yeah, absolutely, that will happen. Can the driver say no?
I don't know, but the driver won't necessarily know that you're dangerous.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I have to travel on business and I travel with people that travel a lot more than I do, they always have like a driver for the city, which is really, it's like, so-and-so is going to pick us up at the airport and is going to do whatever and blah, blah, blah. And that actually works out to be less than a cab for all of that and way better service. But they always have a particular individual they know. And there's no service that's involved with that. It's just like they might have met through a service originally a long time ago, but it's just like, hey, this is my guy. And whenever that guy can't do it, he knows somebody else that can do it, and it has worked surprisingly well.
Are you traveling with members of organized crime? Because that's what that sounds like.
That is what that sounds like a little bit.
Maybe, I don't know. I mean,
Vinny's gonna drive for us.
I don't ask questions. I just fix stuff.
I was thinking it was more like when you in Eastern Kentucky and you're visiting family or something. It's like, hey, my cousin's gonna come pick you up. And like, it's not really good service. It's more just like they're doing you a favor.
Yeah.
Strange. Yeah, I think the driver would need to know if they've been favorited, right?
I
So
don't
they
know.
can say no. Like, they should be able to say no.
But I don't think that Uber has any idea that being favorited would be a bad thing. I mean, if you're a driver and you're favorited a bunch, that could be like a feather in your cap. You could put that little placard. It's like, I've been favorited 500 times.
Uber stressed that drivers aren't penalized for opting not to take the ride.
And yet,
right. Spotify has been on a spending spree. Good Lord, they just can't throw away their money fast enough. And their latest acquisition is probably a big part of that, because this kind of like, oh, you paid, what did they pay for, like $400 million for Joe Rogan? How do you get that money back? Well, here's the answer.
Spotify to buy podcast ad company Megaphone for $235 million. So this company also has an analytics component and user tracking, and they keep track of your preferences and all kinds of other stuff like that. So that's how they're going to make money.
Targeted ads.
Woo!
For a pay service, folks. Although I guess there's a free version, isn't there?
There is a free version, and you have to listen to ads on that. I hope they don't start introducing ads in the paid version, because that will probably make me drop my subscription really fast.
That's what satellite radio did.
Screw that.
And somehow they're still around. Well, we talked last week about the old Hyperloop coming to West Virginia. Now, this is not that. They already have a test center in, was it Vegas?
Yeah.
Vegas.
Well, the one in Vegas is only like very short.
But long enough to get some decent speed.
Hyperloop hits an important milestone. The first human passenger. For the first time, 2 people rode in a Hyperloop pod through a nearly airless tube at 100 miles an hour.
Wow.
That is the two of the officers of the company.
Now, if something went horribly wrong and the wreck became a twisted hunk of metal in the tube, there would be no way to rescue them. Just throwing that out there.
Now, here's a critical question that immediately came to my mind. These tubes are pressurized. Is there an oxygen supply? Because you're inside a vacuum.
Yeah, I think there is.
So if I rip just a brutal fart in this little tube,
Better have really nice air
I
filtration.
think there's a carbon filter in there.
Yeah. You know, we've still got some of the N95 masks, and I always have to help my mom with cat litter, and I don't know why, but I happened to wear an N95 mask to have mom deal with the cat litter, and it was a much more tolerable experience with the N95 mask. It really does a good job.
You got to get the low dust litter.
No, it's not the dust smell. It's the cat odors.
Cat urine is a strong smell.
Yeah, but
That's
the
a terrible
N95, I didn't smell anything. It was fine. Yeah,
I didn't think that it caught smell particles.
it was effective.
Now, what if we were hyperlooping between like the parking lot and the chili cook-off? Is that carbon filter powerful enough?
Real questions. Think they really need to work out before they launch this into the public.
I thought that was going to turn into a pandemic question, and it was just like, no, it's going to be like an airplane where literally everybody gets infected.
The video of this, the little chamber they're in is pretty tiny.
When we detect COVID in the I said it. When we take the thing inside the tube, you just vent the tube and just pull the corpses out the other side. It's like, we can't take a risk. I'm sorry. This is a very, very, very long article. Boy, did they go into detail, but they are some salacious details.
Yeah.
My God. What HP has done here is just ridiculous.
Ink-stained wretches, the battle for the soul of your digital freedom taking place inside your printer. If you read this and understand what has happened here, you will never buy another HP product as long as you live.
But they mentioned the other company was also trying something like that. Not this bad. What was the other company they talked about?
Lexmark?
I think, yeah. I was thinking
Lexmark, I
Lexmark.
think, yeah.
So here's the thing. HP wanted to get into the whole subscription game, right? Because it's all about software as a service. You got to have recurring fees, cloud stuff. That's the new thing. You don't sell anybody anything that just works. They must continue to pay. So HP came up with, hey, ink for life.
Buy this printer, get ink for life.
Ink for life. Was it like 15 pages a month? It was very low. But if you went over your 15 pages, you just pay them a small fee, which is actually a ridiculous per page fee. It's like college fees for print and stuff.
25 cents a page.
And so people were like, yeah, okay, maybe I can get into that. But there was some fine print. And the fine print said something to the tune of, we actually don't have to honor this at all. And in fact, they're not going to.
No, they're going to charge you $1 a month for the free ink for life. $1 to print 15 pages seems a little steep.
And if you go over,
they charge you more.
They're going to have overage charges. And if they don't get the money for your overage charges, guess what's not going to happen?
Your printer stops printing. You know what the most infuriating thing is? If the printer's low on ink, it won't scan.
I've seen that. What a load of bullshit.
Krista, what about this image?
Oh, shoot. I already closed the tab. Undo close tab. I did think this was cute. This little illustration at the top. So sad.
I would also like to point out, because Mr. Ajit Pai is always like, hey, the FTC is going to save us. Where is the FTC?
Yeah, I mean, good Lord. How much more could this be screaming out for some sort of consumer protection? And they also, the article goes into a lot of detail about how hard they went after the people who were doing the refill cartridges and the discount inks.
It was bad. I mean, it was super bad.
It's a great read. You should definitely check it out.
Oh, if you isolate the image, like look at the image location, the thing you can't see because the header crops it out on the website is that it's printing a skeleton skull.
No, we can see that. You have a different aspect ratio as we are, I guess.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't see that on mine.
It's a great image.
Anywho.
We talked about this last week. This is just a real quick follow-up. They've actually followed through with it. You can't actually use it to make the little payments like we talked about, but you can buy them now.
PayPal now lets all U.S. users buy, sell, and hold cryptocurrency, but you're not going to be paying for that sandwich with cryptocurrency. You can forget it.
$16K for the old Bitcoin.
They're going to, wow, good
up.
Lord. They're going to bring cryptocurrency into Venmo next year.
And then maybe you can buy your sandwich with it. Although it wasn't clear about those fees we talked about last week. Those fees could really eat into a sandwich. Sega, I don't think this is nearly as important here as it is in Japan. Japan still has arcades that are super popular, except not so much these days because, of course, the vid. So what do? You lose a bunch of money. That's what you do.
Sega sells off its arcade business due to the thing. So those arcades are going to be owned by somebody else, which, they may or may not even reopen them. It's, who knows?
They admit they're going to take a huge, the quote is extraordinary losses. So rip Sega and arcade gaming. Ticketmaster. Now this, you might see the headline here. You might think, well, how is this related to technology? It's the stack of technology that has to be required to make this work. And oh my God, are they going to track you? So much delicious tracking is going to come from this.
Ticketmaster exploring negative tests for the thing or vaccination to attend concerts. So yeah, you would be trusting Ticketmaster with a lot of personal and medical information. Do you think Ticketmaster's IT team is ready to handle HIPAA? Anybody want to give me some over and under odds on that?
So there's they walk through the cornucopia of apps and business partnerships and everything that would be involved in this. But basically you would go to a pharmacy like a CVS or something like that who's in partner, and then they have an app and Ticketmaster has an app and everything has to agree. And if you get the green light, I think it's 72 hours before the concert, then you can go to the concert.
And this is going to be utterly ineffective.
Yeah.
Couldn't you just bring your paper copy? Like, here's my receipt with my name on it.
No. People fake things like that, it turns out.
Yeah.
I was thinking about when I took Rue to get boarded last time, and she has to have a Bordetella vaccine, and he's fine if I just bring the receipt to show that she's been vaccinated.
That's because he probably hasn't yet experienced a terrible person.
Yeah.
And people probably
it's
aren't.
A small place I take her, but
they're not working as hard to sneak dogs into a kennel as they would be to try to, get into
a concert.
Whatever I can't think of a popular artist. Who's WAP? Cardi B.
Cardi B, yeah.
Cardi B, get into a Cardi B.
I can't think of anyone who's currently touring who I would be interested in going to see and being packed in a room with right now.
Krista, you do have a eclectic taste in music, so
Yeah, that's true.
So over there in the Chinese part of the world, they have something similar to our, like shopping holidays, except it eclipses our shopping holidays. Prime Day and Black Friday, that's nothing compared to Singles Day. And we have a new
We talked about that last year. Reuters reports that Alibaba's Singles Day sale topped $74 billion. Planned, rules hit shares.
I like that they're having, it looks like a kind of a telethon type situation going on here in the call center.
It's like it's a boring dystopia material.
But they got the warehouses going hard there. So they're feeling good about it, although their share price did drop afterwards because of some other stuff.
The Ant Group thing and some other stuff. Yeah, it didn't go well.
Still, a nice little piece of pocket money there.
Well, a lot of people
$74 billion.
A lot of people are spending money on things. I mean, it's happening here too. I mean, look at the game console sales. It's over the moon because nobody's got anything else to do.
Here's something crazy that I never would have thought. I've started shipping most of the stuff to my house now instead of here because I come here once a week. I get everything a day faster at my house.
That's surprising.
Yeah.
That is weird.
That is very weird.
You live out you're not in the middle of nowhere, but
Well,
you're far enough out that I would expect you would not get stuff as quick.
Yeah, I'm certainly not, as close to civilization as this office is by a long shot. It's
Weird.
Maybe our driver just doesn't like us because we're constantly needing things.
No, it's not the driver because when I change my address on the Amazon page, it changes the delivery date.
Huh.
Yeah. Wow.
That's odd.
Now, Krista, this will never work here, so you will not benefit from this. But if you were African, your rural internet might be solved not by Elon Musk, but by Alphabet.
Alphabet Project uses light beams to bring broadband to remote regions. Lucky bastards. Not us.
The setup looks fairly advanced. A bird flying through the beam, it seems like that would be a problem, but
It'd be a temporary interruption, though.
I did that in college. There was another student and I that set up, we used red laser pointers to shoot from one tall building on campus to another tall building on campus. It only worked after hours because there was too much interference from the sun, or the laser pointers weren't bright enough, depending on how you want to look at that. And it was also only 14,400 or 19,200 bits per second. So not exactly broadband, but it was neat. It was a lot of fun.
How long do you think till we see a story where, it's one of these, is WhatsApp, is that what they use over there? You know how they're always killing each other?
Oh, yeah.
And something gets out, and it's like, oh, no, this is a terrible WhatsApp story. I can't let the rest of the community see this. Somebody just drives a truck straight into those poles.
That'll happen.
It's
Yeah.
like, we have to shut this down.
Mm-hmm. I mean, when we were growing up, people would shoot the cable TV lines into because the government was spying on us through the cable TV lines.
I was about to ask about that. I was like, I'm pretty sure you guys have talked about that happening here.
Yeah.
It literally did.
It's unfortunate. Well, Microsoft, moving on to the security section, Microsoft is saying what we've known for some time, that the Achilles heel of two-factor authentication is that your mobile phone, when operating as a phone, is extremely insecure.
Microsoft urges users to stop using phone-based multi-factor authentication. Microsoft recommends using app-based authenticators and security keys instead. Yes, we would recommend that as well because the mobile phone network is dangerously insecure.
And even if it weren't, the whole employee SIM jacking thing, how do you solve that?
Yeah. You can practice for this eventuality by rotating your phone number often.
And another Microsoft security instance, and this, I think we talked about this before.
We did.
But now we've got more details about how this guy did it. And it was kind of, I don't know if it was brilliant. At first. He saw a loophole and he took it. Over time, he started to worry a little bit, but not nearly enough.
Yeah. Microsoft engineer gets 9 years for stealing $10 million from Microsoft. The defendant tried and failed to use Bitcoin to cover his tracks. So he tried to send it to a Bitcoin mixing agreement. At first, he was only stealing a little bit, and didn't bother to cover his tracks at all.
He figured out, we should point out, he was a tester, like a store tester. So you could go in and you could buy any product from the Microsoft store, and there was a flag on it as like, this is a tester account. Don't ship this. But what about digital products? Turns out there was no flag on the digital products.
Oh.
Because it doesn't cost anything.
So he was getting Microsoft points, and then he could exchange those for some actual goods. But then he was like, I should just sell these on the black market. And he did for Bitcoin. Then he got caught.
Yeah. Although he also used other people's accounts, hoping that, if he ever was caught, he could, have some subterfuge.
But it was a little late, and he used the same Bitcoin wallet.
Yeah.
If he would have done this right, they would have known somebody on the team did it, but they might not know who. They also looked at his Coinbase, and they're like, that's weird. Your deposits to Coinbase exactly match a certain percentage of what you stole, because he had to sell them for a lower price than the actual street value. But it was always the same amount lower.
How long do you think he was doing this if he stole 10 million?
It was a long time. They said, I think it was like 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, no. From 2016 to 2018.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Well, that's
two
much slower.
years.
Yeah, he only netted $2.8 million on a $10 million steal, so that's not a great return.
And he went out and bought a super expensive house and super expensive car. Criminal failure 101 right here. All the things that you should not do. He should have started spending that money next year.
Hey, I invested in AMD when they were $2 a share. I'm out.
I pulled a similar hard scam on Amazon this week. They give you $10 if you reload a gift card balance for $100 on your Amazon account. But I paid for that with my Amazon Prime card with 5% cash back. Boom, $15.
Wow.
Thank you, Mr. Bezos.
He is a generous God.
So we talk a lot about Play Store malware or Android malware. And the question is, like, where does it come from? I don't think this is surprising, but it is a disappointing answer to that question. They looked at all the various vectors where malware can get into your Android phone. Guess what's number one?
Play Store, identified as main distribution vector for most Android malware. You know why? Because Google are apathetic masters. They literally do not care. They don't vet anything. They don't even do cursory checks. And the checks that they do are trivial to get around.
So these 12 possibilities were ranked. And number one at 67%, that's a lot, was the App Store. Or Play Store, not the App Store.
This app is not technically malicious. It just doesn't work in a user's interest. I want my free apps.
Krista, this photo seems lackluster.
Oh, I closed the tab again. I do close tab. Yeah, this is well, I don't even know what this is. It's very low effort.
We're not expecting a lot of traffic to this article, so just throw something together.
Just make some marks on it.
That would be like probably a pretty good job, right? Like just doing little graphics like this. You probably get paid nothing. They probably pay you like $5.
You're probably not an employee. You're just, a freelancer.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Yeah. Chrome is adding some security that Firefox and Safari already have.
Chrome to block tab-nabbing attacks. Basically, when you right-click a link and you do open a new tab, the tab that you opened could send commands to the tab that you opened to without this security patch, which actually, believe it or not, was a feature. Like way back a long time ago, that was a feature. There's a thing you can add to links, which is rel no opener, which will prevent that command channel from working, but no website ever added that. And the reason it's not that way by default is because some old applications depend on this functionality.
Those poor developers with their rose-colored glasses, not thinking about the darkness that they will reap.
Yeah, I mean, Chrome has already broken post and Flash applications. Like if you've got a legacy Flash application, support for it ends next month, just to let you know. But Google pulled the rug out from under everybody by, if you have a Flash application that posts to an API, even if your cookies are set correctly, it will never pass the session cookie, even if it's got the correct cookie flags. And that's a recent change to Chrome. It's a bug in Chrome.
Is this Compal as in Computer Pal or Compal?
I think it's Compal.
Compal. You may have
I
never
like your idea though better. Compal.
Compal.
Well, you may have never heard of them, but you might have actually used one of their products.
Oh, yeah, you definitely have.
They make products for a lot of big companies. Now, they're saying that this definitely wasn't a ransomware attack, but it looks, smells, and sounds like a ransomware attack.
Compal, the second largest laptop manufacturer in the world, hit by ransomware. They build laptops for Apple, Acer, Lenovo, Dell, Toshiba, HP, and Fujitsu. So they said, well, we did get hit by ransomware. It was just the front office. It didn't affect manufacturing. And the several days of downtime that we had, don't worry about that.
Ouch. And I don't know what this is, but I imagine it's foreboding.
we had some downtime to correct some undesirable behavior, is what the IT team said.
I accidentally one-tapped that story twice.
Yeah, I was confused there.
I'm not going to fix it. We also have learned recently that Apple is trying to get into the search engine game, and Apple's kind of downplaying it. They're like, maybe.
We reported on this one already. There wasn't any new info.
Did we talk about the IPs?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Forget all that.
Well, it's Apple's search engine is like crawling the internet, and it's also leaking what the internal IP addresses are. Security researchers said that, hey, this is a security problem, and Apple was like, it's not really, we don't care. And so they took like a year, and then the security researchers demonstrated why that was an issue, and then Apple was like, oh, so they fixed it.
Now, if you have a Ring doorbell camera, you are screwing your neighbor. There's no getting around it. You're a terrible person. I don't care how much security you think you're getting from it. It's actually the opposite of security. And in many ways, you could be screwing yourself.
Amazon's Ring doorbells catch fire because the wrong screw is used. So they have a security screw on the bottom. And if you lose that screw, which is very specially shaped and sized, and use some other screw, you will puncture the battery. There's a battery in these. The battery cannot wait to catch on fire, which is exactly what it does when it's punctured.
So yeah, the one with the pointy tip, stay away from that one. That one's used to mount your Ring doorbell to the wood of your door or whatever, trim or wherever you want to put it. The wall of your sex dungeon, wherever you're putting it.
I wonder how often you have to recharge the Ring battery because it seems awfully inconvenient.
I imagine it's, do they not have power run to them?
It's the battery for when there's a power outage.
I was thinking that, yeah. Because video all day long, no battery could withstand that for a reasonable amount of time, could it?
It seems silly that it has a battery then.
Well,
Are they solar powered?
No.
Listen, if the power goes out, how are we going to surveil you?
What a nightmare.
Ring users, tell us what the battery situation is. I've never looked into it because I'm never buying one. And finally, a fun little story, reminiscent of little Bobby Tables, where someone who knows a little bit trolled the bureaucracy and did it well, but ultimately was defeated by the bureaucracy because you're not allowed to do fun stuff like this.
Company's house forces business name change to prevent security risk. So this is like the business registry, I guess, in the UK. And the company name was literally quote greater than, which, that's a classic string that you can use for script injection. Well, it apparently caused script injection because as soon as their company name was listed on the website, they were like, no, we can't do this. So they had them change the name to that company whose name used to contain HTML script tags limited.
This guy, he feels all smug and, happy about himself and gets stories about him. But the, desk level employee that had to deal with this, can you imagine how their day went that day? It's like, are you kidding me?
I just added this company and now the system doesn't work. What's going on? It's like, oh, yeah, little Bobby Tables.
All right.
That's it for Wednesday as we cruise into the end of one of the worst years any of us have ever experienced.
Check out the face masks and DisplayPort 1.2 KVMs on the Level 1 store. The 1.2 KVMs are shipping immediately.
Collect them all.
Yeah, the 1.4s, if you pre-ordered, they're coming soon. If you didn't pre-order, there's going to be another round of pre-orders, but those aren't going to ship until like late January or February. So,
and look,
and they're DisplayPort 1.4.
There's no guarantee that. Remember that the next milestone is January 21. things could get weird on January 21. I think it's less likely than we all felt about the election.
Weirder.
But, some stuff could go down, and you could be sitting at home with or without a KVM. It's time to make your decision. Who do you want to be? Krista, give us a goodbye that encompasses your pity for those without KVMs.
Bye. Hello, everybody. Today is November 20th, and we're doing robots and nonsense, which are two of my favorite sections.
Woo!
Woo!
I like the robots.
Robots are always fun.
Always good.
Now, do we have a ruling on what the Tesla autopilot upgrade, what level that's supposed to be? Are we still at 2?
I would assume so, but
He's intimated that it's 3. But
is it though?
it's in beta. So
I was while I was driving here today, I saw a car and I was like, oh, what kind of ugly little car is that? And it was a Tesla. They're hideous. I thought it was like a little, like eco car. I guess it is. But yeah, just disgusting cars. They are, however, super popular and super high performance. But at this point, they don't have any competition. And maybe, finally, that's going to change.
Honda says that they will be the first to mass produce level 3 autonomous cars. This is according to Reuters. Now, I think that Elon Musk would jump in here and say, we've already produced the level 3 autonomous cars. We just don't have the software update on them yet.
That's kind of a big asterisk to put on it.
Although anytime there's a situation like this, I'm always reminded of Fallout 4 and like Mr. House, and it's like, okay, how is Elon Musk going to get the poker chip to the satellite uplink facility in order to upgrade all the Teslas?
The dog's getting rowdy.
She is getting a little rowdy. She's just making noise, jumping on the bed, jumping back down.
She knows how to get what she wants.
Hey, it's Friday. Everybody wants to just go home. Just be done with the year.
Outside.
Everybody's already at home.
This year's completely a write-off.
Everybody wants to leave the sad room and go back to the fun room. So,
slightly less sad room.
Yeah. When it comes to robots, perhaps I think if you said robot in the modern day, the one that sort of has captured all of our imaginations, it's what we think of as modern robotics, is Spot the dog.
Spot the Boston Dynamics robot.
You would say that?
Yeah.
No, he's not. He's not technically a dog.
Yeah.
But he sure does act like one.
He kind of looks like a dog.
But everybody loves Spot. And Spot may be getting a new owner.
SoftBank is in talks to sell robot maker Boston Dynamics to Hyundai. Hyundai, the manufacturer, because they use robots for literally everything. I think this would be a good move.
Now, tell me if this is a little weird. Maybe I'm reading too much into this. Now, Pepper, I'm saying based on hip to waist ratio, Pepper's a girl. Don't you think? Are they not asking us to stare directly into Pepper's breasts to get information? Is that what's going on here?
Yeah, I feel like Pepper's kind of just like a young boy.
Pepper is the powdered toast man of restaurant, concierges, if that's the case.
I'm saying like the Krista, the hips and the waist and the shoulders are the same width as the hips. That's a girl.
I wonder why they did that. Is that more efficient for a design purpose, or was that like...
The most efficient thing for a design purpose is a giant refrigerator box size.
But I mean, in terms of human form, like if you're wanting something to be sort of human, would it be more efficient to design a female or a male?
No, I think it's less threatening. It's more inviting, more welcoming.
That was one of the kind of the running jokes in Futurama that I always thought was funny. It's like, Bender is this super sophisticated thing, but he's just mostly empty inside. It's just a big aluminum shell because technology has come so far.
Yeah, it's going to be weird when we get into true space travel. The whole idea of like curves and aerodynamics just goes out the window and spaceships just get big and ugly.
Yeah.
We won't live to see that, but somebody will. This article, you really, pause this video and go and listen to it because you have to hear it. You mentioned Fallout 4. This made me think of Fallout 4.
Yeah.
Is that kind of music, but it's like Fallout 4 in hell. because you can make out some words and it kind of seems like a coherent thing, but it's not at
Call
all.
out for after
Yeah.
you've had a stroke in the right part of your brain.
A stroke and magic mushrooms at the same time.
It's the screams of the damned. That's a quotation. The eerie AI world of deep fake music. So it's been trained in all that old timey stuff, and the music that it produces is somehow haunting, unsettling, and catchy at the same time.
And it does kind of follow a theme, but it does that whole like pitch shifting auto tune type of thing when it doesn't have an exact match, and this is the uncanny valley of audio
Yeah.
for sure.
In a way, like not counting the vocal performances, it reminds me a little bit of like the Minecraft soundtrack, at least for like the clip I listened to.
The music part it's much better at.
Yeah.
Take away the vocals, it does a much better job at just the music. But when the vocals are in there, whoa. Now, of course, guess who doesn't like this? The recording industry. Oh my God.
Well, see, this is so transformational that they would have no hope of recovering whatever the AI was trained on, so they can't copyright strike you for that.
Oh, they're going to try.
Yeah.
I still like the people that upload like 10 minutes of silence, and they'll get like 4 or 5 copyright claims on 10 minutes of silence still to this day.
3D printing. 3D printing is cool. We don't hear as many cool headlines about it as we did before. I'm not sure why. Maybe the pandemic has something to do with that. But when it comes to 3D printing things that go inside of our bodies, you have to be extra careful because, like all those little particles, you can't just put anything inside the human body. And this is a new technology that seems amazing.
Researchers 3D print biomedical parts with supersonic speed. No, these parts are not organic. They're talking about like hip replacement. Your replacement hip, your organic tissues need to grow into your replacement hip, and that doesn't always happen because those are hard artificial materials. Well, this thing basically takes, powdered titanium and sprays it, and it ends up being this porous foam. But it sprays it at just the right speed so that it'll fuse with whatever it collides with instead of like being sandblasted or whatever the equivalent is with these small particles. Once it's got roughly the shape, they do actually send it through a furnace, which helps strengthen it even a little bit more. But because it's so porous, organic material can bond to it a lot better.
This
Pretty
looks
cool.
like they just covered cells in that spider web stuff that you see at Halloween.
Which probably didn't sell much this year.
Oh, rip.
The way that they described the titanium printing reminded me of like inkjet printing. It's like, oh, we're going to be inkjet printing titanium hips.
Yeah, well, they kind of, but it's much more of a 3D aspect.
Yeah.
So basically, you're like airbrushing in 3D to make a hip.
I'm sure that Lexmark will sue them for patent infringement. Don't worry.
How
Give it
many
time.
dollars a month for your hip printer?
Oh man, that is the dark future that's coming, isn't it? It's like you can't just buy a replacement hip; you can only rent them.
Bring your own
Makers.
substrate to the clinic. Another cool 3D printing milestone that they have made is not to do with the material, but the size. Little tiny guys. So small, in fact, that they can propel themselves around like all the little critters that's, and all the stuff that you look at under a microscope. But also the level of detail, pretty impressive.
Yeah, it
You
is.
gotta admit.
Yeah.
Scientists 3D print a microscopic Star Trek spaceship that moves on its own. No, it's not the Enterprise. It's Voyager. They 3D printed Voyager, but it's made out of some kind of material, like something coated that it runs on hydrogen. It runs on a film of hydrogen peroxide. So it's, I think, platinum or something, and it's reacting with the hydrogen peroxide so that it will zip along, which is kind of sort of similar to how little organic critters do it. And that's the whole point of this, is that they want to study how organic critters have locomotion in similar circumstances. So they needed to create an artificial critter that just had the locomotion thing. So this is not a critter, it's metal, but it'll work.
Now, do you think they chose Voyager not because anybody likes Voyager, but because the connection between the saucer and the rest of the ship on the Enterprise is much narrower?
Yeah,
and would be harder to do here.
Yeah, I think the connection, in a gravity well, the Enterprise engineering is going to be a little more problematic.
Kind of a thick neck here on the Voyager.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot more structurally better. I don't think the nacelles move on that one either. My immersion's ruined.
Do you think it could disconnect the saucer?
A Voyager couldn't do that. It was only.
Oh,
only
really?
It was only the Enterprise.
That's the kind of trivia you tune in for, folks. So now this headline does not reflect the robot part of this article. We have to dig a little deeper for the robot part.
The risk of a new world war is real, the head of the UK Armed Forces warns. Yeah, so what they're talking about is the economic collapse here is just going to, is going to descend into might is right.
And the robot part is one kind of throwaway line that he threw out there, but it was like, wait, what? And this is by 2030?
Yeah, 90,000 human soldiers and 30,000 robots. I mean, if you count drones and stuff, we're basically already there. If you count like the big dog, the big Boston Dynamics robot and their military contract and all the stuff that goes with that, we're basically already there.
Also, you might count autonomous tanks.
Yeah.
Or even aircraft.
Gosh, we've had autonomous ATVs for the better part of 10 years now.
And perhaps one of the personalities we could put in our autonomous tanks would be Amazon's Alexa. So that while you're spreading democracy, you can also order paper towels. But Alexa is learning a new thing, which sounds really annoying.
Alexa is to start second guessing what users want. So it's like, hey, Alexa, what's the capital of Madagascar? And it gives you the answer. But then it's like, oh, are you doing your homework? Would you like to order some HP ink?
Would you like to rent the movie Madagascar?
I'm thinking more like the commercialization and the exploited thing of this because, I'm pretty sure that HP would give Amazon money in exchange for, hey, somebody's maybe going to buy some ink. Have Alexa talk them into buying ink.
Yeah, I could see that. And our next robot is decidedly lower tech. And I don't think that we could call him adorable either.
He's beautiful.
He kind of is an abomination.
It's Dot's third less successful cousin.
We're going to roll the video back so that you can see.
The paywall on this for me was like 20 minutes long, so I just gave up. Japanese town deploys monster wolf robots to deter wild bears. So there's a lot of wild bears in these rural villages in Japan. They're coming out of the forests. And so they've built this robotic wolf because there used to be wolves like this that the bears are naturally afraid of. But the wolves were hunted to extinction. So we've replaced those with a poor robotic substitute. Which, this is kind of an allegory for what's going to happen with the bees. Like, we're going to lose all the bees, and then this is what we're going to get for the bees.
Oh, God, look at him. Oh, his eyes flash. I didn't notice that.
Yeah, he's got like a thing on his tail, too.
Terrifying.
With the bees, we'll just have to hand pollinate, and that takes forever.
Looks like there's a klaxon mounted under him there, too. I imagine there's an audio feature. What kind of sound do you think he makes?
The first Cylon.
One of the biggest stories this week is that McDonald's is getting into the substitute meat game. And you might be wondering, which company are they going with? Well, in true McDonald's fashion, they've decided to change the game.
McDonald's McPlant is coming for Beyond Meat's crown. So McDonald's has a whole line of plant-based things ready to go. And they say you can't tell the difference.
McPlant, Krista, how does McPlant make you feel, the name?
Every time McDonald's announces anything like this, I just think all I want is burgers, chicken tendies, and fries. And McDonald's keeps adding stupid crap like this to their menu and diluting their brand.
You don't want plant tendies?
Not really.
Every time
Not from McDonald's. Not from McDonald's.
Every time I eat at McDonald's, I'm disappointed with myself because it's like, not only are there better fast food choices, like, what am I doing to myself?
So, yeah. Now, I'll eat fast food from time to time, and I feel fine. But when I eat McDonald's, my chest hurts. Does your chest hurt after you eat McDonald's?
The food is usually so mediocre that I'm just like, I would have rather had, like, something like unflavored wheat cereal. Like, that's just wet.
And you know what the cost is. There's a health cost that you are paying, not a monetary cost. It's cheap food, but the health cost that you're paying, and when you're done, you're like, well, I didn't enjoy that.
No,
to the level of life that I just traded for it.
Yeah, it's bad. It's really bad.
It's not really even that cheap anymore. Like, it's gone up a lot since what it used to be because they've expanded their menu so much that they have to have more ingredients and stupid.
The thing on top of that is, I don't think these plant alternatives are that much better for you.
No, because they add a bunch of grease and stuff to try to make it more.
And salt. You got to salt the hell out of those things to make them realistic.
Yeah, it's definitely not a good situation.
Just eat vegetables normally.
Shrinkflation is real also. So I hit up the Halloween candy sales since Halloween was canceled, and they've shrunk. Like, everything is smaller now. Everything.
Yeah, the fun used to be a lot bigger.
Fun size? Yeah.
The size of fun has officially shrunk over the years.
We bought a thing of Jolly Ranchers, and we noticed that they seemed like they were smaller than they used to be.
They are. The changes in packaging, literally everything.
There's just not enough fun to go around in 2020.
In these trying times.
Even the regular sizes are smaller. Like, they had full-size Hershey bars as a thing. That was one of the things on sale because it was Halloween themed. And they're thinner. They're thinner than they used to be.
Remember when they did that to the Toblerone? They added the giant gaps in between the triangles.
Yeah.
Thought nobody would notice. Dark times, folks. Dark times. Now, if you're listening to all that and you're just in this misery and you're like, I have to escape from this planet, there might be some good news for you. The homesteading on the moon may be a lot easier if this works.
UK firm to turn moon rock into oxygen and building materials. The technology is seen as a vital component in preparations to establish a permanent lunar base. So, moon rocks into oxygen and water and other building materials.
You're literally going to be playing a crafting video game when you get up there. It's like, you're going to go shovel the moon dust, put it in this machine.
Put it in the cement mixer.
Collect the aluminum that comes out of it, put it in this other machine. All the while watching my oxygen levels. Got to keep the oxygen levels up.
What game was that we played that
Oxygen
was like
not
that?
Included?
We've played so many games like that.
There were two. There was one that was like sort of realistic art style, and there was one that was cartoony. And you had to have like the oxygen like
Tether.
little tube thing. Yeah, the tethers.
Oh, Astroneer was one of them.
Astroneer, yeah.
I don't know what the other one is.
It had the giant sandworms, the other one.
Oh,
did.
that's it's named after an Egyptian god. I don't remember. Chat will know.
Either. Yeah.
This article, I saw the headline and I added it, and then later I read it and I was like, I'll decide if I'm going to keep that or not. But after reading it, it's the most crazy thing in the world. It makes no sense. Did you get anything out of this?
No, I didn't. Body found in Canada identified as neo-Nazi spam king. The body of a man found shot inside a burned-out vehicle in Canada 3 years ago has been identified as that of Davis Wolfgang Hawk, a prolific spammer and neo-Nazi who led a failed anti-government march on Washington, D.C. in 1999.
So he was a big spammer, and he was proud of that, but also a neo-Nazi, but also Jewish?
I also got stuck on that. I was like, wait, Jewish descent, neo-Nazi. So, what?
My parents were so terrible. No, I don't think that's how that works.
Made a lot of money in the early days of the internet, got sued by AOL and lost $12.8 million, but they couldn't find it because apparently he was a big fan of precious metals. They dug up his yard, still couldn't find it. And so they're thinking that the fact that he squirreled his money away in weird ways and was a little bit of an incendiary personality might have led to the killing and burning.
Yeah.
So I guess we shouldn't say rip that guy because that's a nice thing to say. Just see you later. See you later there.
Yeah.
And we talked about this last week, but we did not know at the time that it was going to be as popular as it was. I kind of expected it, though.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised by this.
Tesla Tequila, shows a brand strength and has sold out before Elon Musk could even tweet about it.
$2.50 a bottle, Krista.
This is just one of the things I don't understand. I mean, I understand people, will spend their money on discretionary things like this based on their own discretion, but why? $250 for a bottle of probably mediocre tequila.
You could get a really nice half a KVM at the store.level1text.com.
Half a KVM. For 2 bottles of this.
But you're going to buy 2, right? One to keep and one to drink. Yeah.
I don't buy alcohol like this.
I'm pretty sure
I buy it to drink it.
You buy one and then you just keep refilling it with whatever distillery made it.
Now, Krista, if you really want to vomit in your mouth a little bit, scroll down to the listings on the auction sites for the empty bottles.
That's a better margin than scalpers are getting on 3090s.
Why? I don't think anyone in our chat probably is buying these, but if you did, can you explain your thought process?
They are absolutely.
I just couldn't justify this. Like, even if it was my favorite wine in the world.
Well, I mean, that's not nearly the most you can pay for liquor.
Yeah.
I mean, expensive liquor is a common thing. But usually there's some sort of, like rich history of quality from that liquor brand, not some guy who's never done it before.
Your liquor brand should not be about the consumer horror aspect of it, and more like, this is a tradition of fine craftsmanship.
Yeah. Did you know, I did not add the story. I just saw the story before we started. He very likely has the vid.
Really?
Yeah. He's been tested 4 times, and he got 50-50 results so far, he says.
Wow. Well, hopefully that will give him some... What, Krista?
No, it's if you're saying maybe that'll give him some humility, no. No, it hasn't.
He'll be like Trump when he comes out the other side of it. It's like, oh my God, you can't stop me.
I had millions of dollars to spend on medical care. I don't know what the big deal is.
Yeah, our hospitals.
Meanwhile,
are
the
full.
overflowing hospitals.
Yeah. They literally are like, oh, you've got appendicitis. Can you wait a couple of weeks? Because not good.
I think it was Iowa that was like, start thinking of backup plans now if you can't go to the hospital. And it's like, what's the backup plan for something like appendicitis?
It's you make sure you have a shotgun with a sufficiently short barrel.
Oh.
Or, practice with your toes. Now, Krista, you don't have an Xbox Series X, and that's perhaps for the best. Because I fear that yours might suffer for this.
I just got it.
Microsoft, please don't blow vape smoke into your Xbox Series X.
Yeah, this is a thing that tried to go viral, but it was really badly done.
I mean, it succeeded. I heard about it. I saw videos of it on Twitter.
So stupid. Although marketing companies, if you're paying attention, here's something brilliant for you. The next time you have a client that has a product that catches on fire, go make and release some poorly done videos of somebody vaping into the product.
Just do that with the Amazon with the screws.
Please don't vape into your Ring doorbell.
Somebody just desperately vaping toward a flaming Tesla.
That should be the title of the episode, but no one will get it.
And we are full throttle into cancel culture. I feel like it's going to accelerate into the decade. I think about the halfway mark is probably going to be the high water mark, and then we'll get the backlash. Hopefully by 2030, we'll be back in the deep anti-PC territory. But it's going to be some tough times, and here is a perfect example of how the people who participate in cancel culture have zero self-awareness.
Unbelievable. Live stream of cancel culture debate canceled during State Library of WA's Disrupted Festival. So the State Library of Washington has a festival called Disrupted where they talk about cancel culture. And they were going to stream it online with a panel of people who were going to talk about that. But one of the people in the panel said no. So it's like a real-life game of Among Us.
There's one imposter among us.
Well, they knew who it was. So this person said, now listen, I understand the whole idea of this is supposed to be disruptive and cancel culture is the debate here, but I can't give you permission to stream me because I feel like some of my fans might be disturbed by some of the words that are said here. So we have to cancel that. Which recursion. It's recursion. That's how they operate.
Anybody in the office that was, or anybody watching that was a rogue AI has shorted out and shut down. We just saved humanity. Thank you.
Alexa's blacked out across the country. Now this one, I feel like I did not need ABC Australia to tell me this. I kind of already had an idea, considering the whole they react to it thing.
Horses can feel just as much pain from whips as humans, study shows. So this was an extensive study that looked at nerve endings in, the horse's skin, how they react, and blah, blah, blah. And, there are some people in the horse racing industry that say, oh, horses don't feel pain. It turns out horses must be a little masochistic.
Their argument was well, but if we don't give them the whip, then they might do something really dangerous to the riders. Well, one option there to avoid that danger would be to not unnecessarily ride horses.
Study shows where there's a whip, there's a way.
I mean, look, we don't need
That's going to be clipped out of context.
to race animals anymore. Humans can fight in a cage these days. It's so much more entertaining. God, I mean, leave the poor animals alone.
But these horses are worth millions of dollars.
This one, I assume this is not fake news, right? I mean, this is not like a parody site.
Well, we talked about some more undercover things as well.
But I mean, does this not feel like a parody story to you?
It does a bit, yeah.
But I'm pretty sure
It's not.
leadslive.co.uk is a real site. I'm gonna head this off by saying that maybe it's not, because good Lord, it shouldn't be considering this. But I think this is real.
Millions wasted on undercover police operations as cops infiltrated clown army. The absurd activities of undercover police officers have been described as farcical. So that's just one. There's several things here. I think the more disturbing thing here is that the police apparently funded operations that were years long to get in with groups of people that they thought might be disruptive, including this group of clowns.
I'm not sure how the clowns threatened the world, but they did enough to get an undercover officer. Now, the more common ones were, separatist groups and groups that are based on race, like Black Lives Matter, that kind of thing. And
which is more disturbing.
Yeah. Justice campaigns, anti-racism, anti-police violence, environmental. That's been going on ever since there were environmental groups.
Yeah.
Community solidarity networks, animal rights groups, and political activism.
Pro tip, if you've got a little local community where, like, you guys get together once a week at the library and you're like, hey, we should petition the city to repaint the fire hydrants because they're kind of rusty and they're kind of unattractive. And if some dude shows up and is like, yeah, let's repaint the fire hydrants and also let's burn down City Hall. Probably not a real person.
Probably a plant.
Hey, fellow kids. Anybody want to sell me a gun?
Oh, these fire hydrants. We got to go burn down a Wendy's.
Isn't that what happened in Michigan with the overthrow plot? Like, the FBI literally was on it immediately, and they just assumed he was one of them.
Yeah.
But there have been a lot, I'm not for sure, but there have been a lot of reported cases where, with the whole, the war on terror, they would find a Middle Eastern kid who had no capacity to bomb anything and just, literally painted by numbers a bomb for him.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, we got him.
It's like, but he wasn't even going to do that until you
So I don't know. Now, Sahara Reporters, I have no idea the credibility of this site. The headline is outrageous. I don't understand how someone could think that this happened when it really didn't. But I don't think it could happen, right? I mean... Is there a medical condition that can lead to this?
I interpret this as prank calls. It took me a couple of times to understand what was happening. Well, yeah. Benue local government imposes 12-hour curfew after unrest over missing penises. Young men in Dubu had complained last week about missing male reproductive organs at an alarming rate.
So they started burning and killing. Yes, Krista? I can hear some questions.
I was re-skimming the article because, okay, I must have missed something here, but, were they cut off or were they just missing? What does that mean?
Now, we've done other stories about, this is a kind of a common thing in Africa. I think some of the WhatsApp.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was that somehow they believe in penis theft. Now, it was my understanding that all of the crowd, the riot, was made up of all young men who claimed the penises had been stolen.
Couldn't someone just pant someone and determine that was the riot?
I don't know.
Yeah, there was a crank call aspect of this, but then it was real.
But I don't think anybody's really missing a penis. I mean, maybe they are. Again, easy to prove. And would you want to advertise that? Would you want to be known as the guys with no penises?
I have so many questions about this story, and I don't feel like I'm ever going to get more answers.
You're probably not. No. Maybe somebody in the
this
chat.
Little tiny local news site. Surely there's...
Do we have any viewers from Nigeria who has experienced a missing penis? Because we would love to hear from you.
Or if they can tell us if this is the Onion for Nigeria, and we've just been duped.
If it is the Onion for Nigeria, what a creative story.
Bravo. But I'm confused.
Television continues its slow but inevitable death. and it can't come soon enough. And the television networks aren't real sure what to do about it. The cable companies just raise the prices and blindly, fly into the maelstrom that will destroy them. But the networks, they're trying streaming, they're trying different things, they're trying to appease this new breed of human being that we find difficult to understand. And I believe this goes in that category because it's very woke, I guess.
CBS reality shows must now have 50% non-white casts, according to the network. Also, the writer's room has to be at least 40% non-white.
Now, how white is white? We have to determine that, right? So if you're 20% black,
1/64th Native American.
Is that okay?
I don't know.
What about 1/65th?
Well, I mean, maybe that's a percentage thing. Maybe can we figure that out? That sort of gets really weird though, because then what if people start maintaining lists of writers and what their ethnicity is?
Yeah, but now it's weird because like having to prove your race to get a job.
That seems.
Have we ever done that before?
Only in the very most bad way possible.
Is this better?
I heard a different take on this, and I don't think this is the answer, but I think that it was like trying to describe the problem they were trying to solve with this. Apparently on the show Big Brother, they'll have some black contestants on it every year, and every year they get voted out first. And apparently that's starting to look really bad for optics, so this might be a move to try and fix that.
But I don't think it's exactly what you're describing, but it is funny on shows like what's the one where they get married? The Bachelor. There's always but that's supposed to be how it ends, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the finale, and then they end up breaking up like a month later.
So they always have a certain number of the minority girls, or maybe a girl with a handicap or something like that. I don't watch it, but you notice these kinds of things when you see the pictures of the lineups and stuff, and you're like, okay, he can't get rid of her first round. That won't look good. So he has to play a mental game. It's like, all right, when do I get rid of the obvious one? That's fun to watch. Now, I say that this is fine, but it should be exactly the demographics of the country.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
What are we? I think white is still 60, but we might have lost a lot of ground. Hispanic is blowing up. So it might be more like 40-40. Black is 13, right?
Somewhere through there.
And then miscellaneous. So that's exactly what we should have in all of our reality shows. Just a perfect distribution of races.
Seems reasonable.
No, it doesn't seem reasonable.
I feel like I understand what they're reacting to, but I don't know how you solve that problem. I don't know that like forcing a 50-50 split will necessarily make it better.
Any rule you create will not solve that problem. It will only create anger.
It might create more interesting television, and that's all they really care about, I guess.
Now, when you're eliminating people, do you worry about that? It's like, oh, this is going to upset the balance.
I don't know.
Christmas.
I'm never going to be on reality TV, so.
You don't know that, Krista. Don't sell yourself.
I don't think I have the personality for it.
Christmas is coming up, and the entire holiday season, really.
Yeah.
And our socially distanced lifestyles are going to conflict very deeply with many of our traditions. And what are you going to do? You're going to be a good little citizen? You're going to stay at home? Or are you going to say, no, I must go see Santa? Perhaps there's a middle ground.
Santa's given video call training for a socially distanced Christmas. A new app called Santa HQ will allow children to virtually visit Santa's grotto. This is going to be really bad because like little Timmy is going to call Santa and going to have a conversation with Santa, and then Timmy is going to forget something and he's going to call Santa back. And the next Santa that he get is not going to have any recollection of the conversation that he had to begin with.
What do you mean next Santa? There's clearly a typo in the headline. It should be Santa's possessive giving video call training for a socially distanced Christmas. That was just a mistake on the Independent's part. They know it's just one Santa.
And he will use his North Pole magic to increase his bandwidth as necessary to receive all of those video calls. And then use some sort of quantum time dilation so that he can talk to every child.
At the same time.
Yeah.
He utilizes all the bandwidth in the North Pole, and all the natives are like, oh, come on, man.
I'm trying to play Counter-Strike. Now, this is going to be way, way, way worse than you are predicting because you are not predicting the obvious one. What is every Zoom story about?
Oh no!
And kids ain't going to get over that. That's going to be a tough one for little Timmy. That's going to be a scar, a mental scar.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you know what we're talking about. We're talking about the real North Pole.
Oh.
The Peter North Pole.
We can't use that as a title, but it would be a good one. People would be like, how does he know that name? And Krista, this was one that you sent me, and I thought that like this was like you could just go to really any real world place, but no, they created this specifically for this little event. Yeah.
This was trending on Twitter. VR furries are now running around the Four Seasons Total Landscaping. There's not really anything else to say here. It's just furries are running around a virtual version.
There was a post on our forum about this, and we had to like it was derailed immediately because we can't have nice things. Well, not that thread was nice. It was not nice.
Well, that was in the just like the bitter, the hottest part of that battle for like, is there fraud or isn't there fraud? So you're never going to get a group of people who can just enjoy it for what it is, which is furry nonsense.
Everything about this is just peak internet. The furries, someone taking the time to make like an obscure site into a map in a game. Like,
you know, my favorite part about this is whatever software this is for the furries is basically just textures on flat models. They don't have any fur physics at all. Come on.
It turns out NVIDIA has patented that and is not participating in any kind of FRAND, agreement. So
they got to do the fur works.
the video in here, I mean, there's not like really great fur, but like the guy's, his little ears are moving around while he talks to the camera.
That's just a hack.
Every time he sways.
That's just a skin on a flat model, Krista. It's ridiculous.
It's real.
I probably won't download this because I don't ever download apps because I don't trust them, and I definitely don't trust this one. But I would be, if I could know. I don't believe in this, but if it were real, I would like to know.
Former Amazon engineer creates an app that reportedly translates your cat's meows. Everything from "I'm hungry" to "I'm happy" and even "I'm in pain" are built into the app and translated based on tone. So, cats don't communicate with each other by meowing in the wild. I guess they can hear us talking and assume that they need to do the same thing.
I think cats meow at each other.
They do?
Yeah.
Well, that article says they don't in the wild. But it says there's like 9 different things a cat can convey, so it doesn't seem like the translation is all that sophisticated. Although I'm sure that like I've got a lot of training data for one of the things, which is Mom's cat, which only communicates existential dread. The possums really messed it up as a kid.
You think they have...
has an abusive relationship with the possums. Like at one hand, it's terrified of them, but it also wants to go back.
He loves me.
Yeah, still, when feeding the cat like will leave its bowl alone for a while because it thinks possums are going to jump out and take the food, and it has to wait until the possums are done eating before it eats the leftovers.
Oh.
I wonder if they'll have one for, I'm going to continue opening the drawers and climbing onto the counter, and I don't care what you do to me. Because that's the one that I would hear 90% of the time, I think. You have to be careful when you are a big tech company and you're moving into a country or a culture that you don't really quite understand. Because there are some little nuances that will get you in a lot of trouble. And Amazon India has run into one of those issues.
Amazon yanks doormats with Hindu gods from site amid outrage. So it was a doormat. It was like, wait a minute, we're doing what now? It's like, no, that's not okay here in India. It's like, oh, oops.
Could I get a Jesus doormat?
Yeah, I think you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can get, from the movie Dogma, you can get Buddy Jesus statues full size. Still.
Yeah, but that's like, I mean, is there somebody who's selling a Jesus doormat who isn't? They just want you to have a nice Jesus product, not like wipe your feet on our God type of thing.
Oh, I don't think so.
No, I would almost be willing to bet you could, though. Like, Christianity generally doesn't seem to care as much, at least most versions of it.
I don't know
about printing your stuff all over the place, because I see that kind of stuff everywhere.
Yeah, I don't know that malicious is the right word, more like apathetic.
Yeah.
If people want to buy a Jesus mat, who cares?
Yeah. Now we know for sure you couldn't do a Muhammad mat. That's definitely out of the question.
Yeah.
So yeah. If you're going to do business in a different part of the world, maybe learn from them a little bit. Hire somebody local and run some ideas past them.
Oh man, our next article. This is amazing. Like like I was watching this as it was happening, and it just got more and more amazing as time went on. It was hilarious.
Do you remember the woman? Her.
What is that?
Is that you, Krista?
Yeah, my landlord is mowing the grass, and so every now and then I can't guys very well.
But there was, do you remember I think she was a professor at a college or something, and her Twitter alt was a Native American lesbian.
Oh, yeah.
Who got COVID.
Yeah.
This is the right-wing version of that.
Yeah.
And they're so similar.
They are shockingly similar. The incredible, bizarre Dean Browning and Dan Purdy Twitter drama explained. So this is just really hilarious for a lot of reasons. Not the political reasons. But like, if you have a politician that is spending time doing this on any side, they are not working in the public interest, and they never have. And because they're not working in the public interest, they should not be permitted. Yeah. So Dean Browning literally posted a tweet that said, "I'm a black gay guy, and I can personally say that Obama did nothing for me, and my life only changed a little bit, and it was for the worse. Everything is so much better under Trump. I feel respected, which I never do when Democrats are involved."
And he posted that under his official checkmark Twitter account.
Not the alt.
He forgot.
And then there's the and then this gets even more insane.
Yeah,
some internet sleuths figured it out,
tracking this down. And the gay black man, who was not real, was a huge Trump supporter. And a lot of anti-Biden stuff.
And then Patti LaBelle's adopted son was somehow baited into saying, "No, I'm Dan Purdy."
And why? I mean, it's got to be political, I guess.
Yeah, it would have to be.
Man, it just goes to show you that Twitter's destroying us.
Well, I think so. Here's the thing, though. Like, if Mark Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey and those executives are serious about like the whole there's some disturbing stuff going on here, they could out this. Like, they know IP addresses, they know everything else. The Dan Purdy account has been suspended, and they probably looked at the logs and were like, "Oh wow, same IP address, minutes apart, blah blah blah." Definitely not a real person.
But they're not going to monitor that in real time.
No, they're not going to monitor it in real time. But when they discover something like this, they should be like, "Hey, here's what's happening."
But then, remember the guy who was tweeting as the one politician's cow?
Yeah.
Then you destroy that. And that's just kind of fun.
That is kind of fun.
You also out him.
Yeah. But this is manipulative. The cow thing, I think, is...
If you were a big believer in that politician, you'd be just as angry about the cow thing.
Really?
I think so, yeah.
They're all disappointing. On such
what you're advocating for ultimately is absolute real name policy.
Yeah, that's true.
And I don't think that's the right way to go.
That didn't do anything for the YouTube comment section, and it won't do anything here.
Although, it's technically true that law enforcement has access to this data. So that's the fact that they have access to it is maybe an argument that we, the citizenry, should have access to it as well.
The whole idea of an absolute end to privacy across the board is an interesting argument. That is the only way I would ever agree to gun control. Everybody has to have gun control. Just get rid of them. No armies, no cops. We all go gunless. And you're like, that's unrealistic. Yeah, I know. Now, this one is more about the new Macs, specifically the operating system. If you buy one of those fancy new ARM Macs, you might feel really good about yourself. But these guys really took a step back from the forest or from the trees and examined the forest, and the dark future is now.
It's not healthy. The forest. This is an amazing post. It's here. It happened. Did you notice? I'm speaking, of course, the world of Richard Stallman predicted in 1997, the one that Cory Doctorow warned us about. You don't own your computer anymore. As of Mac OS Big Sur, a lot of people had trouble running Mac OS applications yesterday. It turns out that there's a server on the internet. Every time you run an application, a mathematical hash, which is unique to that program, which is computed from the thing that it is sent to a server at Apple, and it says, okay, yeah, you can totally run that. And on Big Sur, you don't really have the option of disabling that. But a lot of people had trouble yesterday because if it's down completely or unreachable or your Mac's offline, it'll fail gracefully. But what was happening yesterday was it was up, but it was hideously slow. And as a result of that, just doing anything on your Mac, really problematic.
So the more successful a product launch is for Apple, the more the product will be garbage for a couple of days. Sounds like a lot of video game releases.
Before macOS Big Sur, there was a program called Little Snitch that would block, this sort of unwanted telemetry to Apple, which, by the way, is unencrypted, for all the lip service that Apple does about, we're encrypted and user privacy and blah, blah, blah. This is, again, an example that Apple doesn't actually care.
No one does. No one cares. And this is not our last story. I have one more. Pokemon. I've played minutes of a Pokemon game. I've certainly never finished one. Have you?
No.
Krista,
No.
you're a Pokemon girl, aren't you? Oh, no? I thought you loved Pokemon.
I did. I liked the TV show and the books, and I collected the cards. But when I tried to play the Game Boy game, I was frustrated every time I walked through the grass, and you'd run into another damn Pokemon and have to do battle. I just wanted to get to the next town over. It took forever.
This is like your Game of Thrones thing where you know all the trivia, but you've never seen it.
I like all the other material, but I don't actually play the game.
Doesn't make any sense. Well, that means this fish has officially accomplished more than any of us.
Oh, after 3,000 hours, a pet fish has completed Pokemon Ruby. All it takes is just mindless smashing of buttons to get through the damn grass.
Yes,
It actually took 3 fish, but that's fine.
But I didn't understand this. Okay, so what he did was he segmented a fish tank into quadrants, and then visually, when the fish moved to a new quadrant, that was a button press.
Yep.
But why would you have to rotate the fish out? It's not, the fish doesn't know that it's playing Pokemon. It's not
Didn't want to get tired.
It's not taxing. You're going to put it in another tank, and it's going to continue to swim. He also, in the Twitch chat, you could call for his help if the character got stuck or whatever. So there was a little bit of human involvement here. And there were some mini games that the fish couldn't do that he had to step in on. So not totally the fish, but still impressive.
Mostly the fish.
People watched that. People just sat there on Twitch and watched a fish play. Probably more people than watch us on Twitch.
I was going to say, it just makes you want to put some clown makeup on, because it's like, what am I doing?
Krista, that's terrorist activity. We can't allow that.
Oh, sorry.
And finally, God, this picture. I wish I could scroll in such a way to hide it and do the reveal. Oh my God, it's amazing. Krista, have you followed this before? Did you already know about this? Because
I did. I'd seen this before.
Yeah, the art world has to be just like, how angry are people about this?
The releases are in Spanish because this was in Spain, but pretty angry as it turns out.
So prepare yourself for this amazing before and after as we do the headline.
Behold, the potato head of Palencia, another botched art restoration in Spain.
God,
why does this keep happening?
It's so bad.
It's pretty bad.
I don't even understand how you do this. The mouth and nose aren't great, but they're not awful.
Krista, look at the mouth compared to the other mouth.
But the eyes, though. The eyes are up in the hairline.
Chunk from Goonies is forever immortalized.
There shouldn't be a hairline. There's a head rag, like a bonnet type of thing going on in the original. Where's that?
I do not know. They must have sandblasted it too hard.
And look at that neck. Look at the neck.
It gets worse the longer you look at it.
You just keep seeing it. And it almost seems like the perspective of the dress is different too, right?
Yeah, I wonder if they just, I don't know though, because the hand still looks all right. I don't know if they just hit it too hard with some sort of abrasive, chemical or something, and it eroded too much of certain things away, and then they just tried to fix it. But
you ever you run an SQL command and you realize that you didn't put the
where clause,
the limiter in there, yeah, and you're like, oh, and you get that feeling, that dropping feeling. How much worse does it have to be?
scroll down to the full, there's like a picture of it on Twitter, and like seeing it in full context with the beautifully carved animals makes it even worse.
At least with SQL, I can roll back the transaction, but with this, there's no.
Chris, I don't see another picture in this article.
There's a Twitter post.
Oh, right.
It's in Spanish.
Oh, it's not previewing the image for
Yeah,
us.
but there's an image that shows like the picture of it with the animals, and it looks horrific.
We're trapped in a. Yeah.
It's staring at me.
The animal faces are so much better.
I think there's only one scenario where this would make sense, and that is the art conservation thing just didn't have enough money to do what they needed to do.
Then why do anything?
Well, no. It was like, okay, we need to save these other things that are really important. Let's really mess up this one.
Sacrifice one.
Yeah.
Well,
And then we can get the money to do it right.
I do kind of think though, like this might have just been someone who was maybe not as experienced, and they put too much of whatever they used to clean it on, and it was abrasive, and then it removed the features, and they tried to draw them back, and it was terrible. Like,
but
you always hear when you watch like people who do restoration, they always say like use very little of any chemical and do lots of spot tests, because if you erase something, you can't put it back. Like you might have to clean something 20 times, but at least you won't have to try to redraw it, or in this case, resculpt it.
But this person should be banned from art for the rest of their lives.
Well,
Just banned.
the article talked about how like a lot of the people hired to do this don't have any experience with art restoration.
They're just migrant workers who they don't even understand the description of what happened there.
Yeah, the process for doing this kind of thing is fundamentally broken. That was what the article was arguing.
They
It's
pointed
crazy
out
because there are lots of art history majors who at least have some qualification for this, but they're probably too expensive, and that's why they don't hire them.
they also pointed out this is another classic example of one that they screwed up really bad. The
Was it
monkey
the,
Jesus.
Was it the painting one? I love that
The
one.
monkey Jesus, yeah. So not unique to this, but it is always.
Again, that turned out to be a brilliant marketing campaign. They only had to sacrifice one, al fresco, whatever.
Yeah, but you know what? We're not getting a lot of new paintings of Jesus.
From the masters? Yeah, no.
Although
not so
that
much.
probably wasn't really a painting of Jesus, right? Because he's way too lily white in that.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely not like a live version of it. It would be someone's interpretation of what Jesus might have looked like. That being said, the original was beautiful, and the one we got instead is questionable.
Maybe this is the same situation where this is an interpretation and this person just hates women.
Maybe.
Oh, wrong button. Well, Krista, could you give us a potato-themed goodbye?
A potato-themed goodbye, and also go get started on your Devember project if you didn't, because December is right around the corner, and then we're going to judge at the end of November.
You know who could greatly, who could really get a lot out of November is whoever did this.
Yeah.
Because their life and art is
Practice your skills.
should not be.
You can use our coupon for Linode and get free, 2 months of free credit, basically. $100. There's a lot of stuff you can experiment with, a lot of skills you can learn. Sign up for Devember. We'll see you there.
Bye, Spuds. Get it? Because it's not buds, it's spuds. So it's a potato goodbye.